Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of First Blood. Yes, we're running late. That's just because we're incompetent. Nothing to worry about here. Thanks to you all for tuning in. And with me, Richard Lewis, your host, as always, are my co-hosts. It is, of course, Brokenshard up in the top right, I think. As you're looking at him, how are you doing, Pantry Bandit? Are you good?
Well, first week I was the Pantry Bandit, second week I was the Virgin, and now I'm Akon.
There we are. We're going to come to that in a second. Also, as we're along with him, as we've got every week, it is Nintendude, not the man who was holding us up at all. How are you doing, brother?
I'm holding you back, not holding you up. Get it right. I'm doing fine.
He's used to holding people back, though. It's all right.
And with us this week, someone that I'm really, actually totally psyched about having on the show, a player that I've known for a long time, one of the first pros I ever really got to speak to in my ascent to being the greatest League of Legends journalist of all time, and one of the players that I've got nothing but absolute respect for and the way he conducts himself. It is Wickd from Alliance. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for letting me be on.
No worries. It's great to have you here. So we've got lots of topics to get into, boys. First thing I just want to say before we start talking about League of Legends content is, as some of you will know from regulars on the stream and stuff, and I didn't know this, we need to hit sub threshold so we can get emotes. And one of our mods, a lovely lady called Nitrous, made us a get fucked emote, which I think is the most appropriate emote we could have for this channel. But we need 5 more subs. I'll give you the money, I'll give you anything, but just get us across that threshold, because get fucked needs to be spammed in this channel as often as possible.
If we get 5 subs, I'll take my shirt off for 5 seconds. So,
please, God, no. Ram, not now.
Better hope the Twitch mods are watching. You'll get shut down, man.
Right. So, lots to talk about. Off-season is as crazy as ever. We're going to have some general discussion this week as well. The topic is going to be players in the spotlight and the criticism that they receive. We've got a plethora of people here who have been in the spotlight and been criticized for their performances. So that's going to be a general topic of discussion we'll introduce a little bit later, including Wicked's fabled tiny champ pool. In fact, some people go as far to say it's a champ puddle. But we'll come to that in a second. Let's start with one of the big stories then. No particular order. Impaler and Jesiz moving to Coast. I had the deep joy to break this story. It kind of came out of left field, and I was really surprised by it. Team Coast seemed to be trying to break the record for a biggest squad ever assembled in League of Legends history, and quite possibly most expensive squad ever assembled, with a ratio to least amount of success. So with all of those records worth discussing, I'll start with Josh and work my way around the table. Josh, Team Coast acquiring these 2 players, which many people say are European rejects. What do you make of it all?
I think I kind of saw the move coming, to be honest, once I heard that they were letting Santorin go. Like, obviously, it hasn't been broken yet, but it's pretty obvious Santorin's going to TSM. So I kind of saw that Coast would make a move for a European jungler, and Impaler was the obvious choice. I have a lot of respect for Impaler, like, from like a shot calling and leadership role. I think he's really strong there, and I watched like their 5s, and he seemed to be the only one that really gave a shit. So, yeah, obviously he's motivated. As far as his play, I didn't watch a whole lot of EU LCS, but given the super hot crew was like a what, 4 or 5, about middle of the pack team, so they were okay. But honestly, I don't think he really ever stood out to me as a jungler. Did anything too crazy. That might not be what Coast needs though. Honestly, I don't know a whole lot about his play, but I think it is a downgrade from Santorin.
Mike, what about you? I mean, you're a player that one of the oldest and longest standing players, a true veteran. You've seen them all. You've seen the greats. You've seen the not so greats. Where did you rate Impaler as a jungler?
So there's a lot of ways to rate a player, in my opinion. So if you look at mechanics, I wouldn't say Impaler is the best jungler. However, if you look at his attitude and the way he behaves in a team environment, from what you can see from an outside perspective, he seems to care a lot, do his best, and that's really important as well, because maybe he's not the best mechanically jungler, but maybe he can pull the team together and make them all play well together. And sure, you can have a great mechanically player that doesn't play at all with the team, and you play worse. For example, if you look at Samson White, they played amazing together. They didn't always outperform their opponent mechanically individually, but by the teamwork, they always won the game because they were just so superior teamwork-wise.
But do you think he'll have that luxury though? Because the way that it sounded when I was like chasing this story, Mike, was that he was in talks with Complexity initially for like about 10 days, I think, before Coast kind of came in and made him an offer which he decided to take. And one of the reasons why he was a little bit reluctant about Complexity was he didn't want to have to make the journey to NA alone. He wanted a fellow Euro bro, if you like, to be there with him, so he could settle in and have somebody that he could talk to and relate to the this change of setting. So do you think he's going to be able, with that in mind, to stamp his leadership onto this team, or do you think he'll be kind of a background figure? After all, he will be the new boy.
I think you can lead the game without being the absolute leader as well. You can lead your teammates to perform better. You can make sure the team environment is good so everybody can practice optimally. And there's a lot of things you can do, even if you're not the leader, while having the leadership potential. And over time, if they're going to qualify, they'll probably play for a year or so. He's going to get there if that's what they want. And if they want somebody else to do it, he can help that person perform it better as a leader.
So Ram, I'll bring you in as well. Obviously, you're a jungler. Is Impaler a player that's really stuck out to you? Because I mean, he's got some pretty big shoes to fill. After all, he's going to be the replacement for Santorin, who we all know is going to end up at TSM.
Let's take a look at history for a sec, though. Like, whenever I think about this, sometimes I like to look back. When Santorin and Impaler first met each other, it was in the relegation qualifiers where Super Hot Crew were playing against Cloud9 Eclipse. And if memory serves me right, Cloud9 Eclipse got absolutely anal in that event. Santorin versus Impaler, they went 0-3. Then Santorin went to EU. So, NA. And it's not hard to see that Santorin actually did get a lot better while he was on NA. And I can actually attribute to a lot of my success as a player that I feel like I actually did get a lot better while I was on NA. Not exactly sure why, but it just kind of happened. So I do expect that Santorin is a lot better than he is now. That being said, in some ways, it could be an upgrade that Coast picked up Impaler, but I don't know how Coast work as a team. If Santorin was like the jungler that they really needed over Impaler, but the thing that Impaler that strikes me the most is that when I was watching the streams of the Alex Ich versus the Alex Ich team, he was communicating really well. Like, his calls weren't always the best calls. Like, obviously, when you're watching a game, you're able to have better decision making than you're actually playing it. But he definitely has a good way of taking a grasp of a game and leading it. So if that's what Coast were missing, then good for them that they picked up Impaler. Mechanically, he's neither amazing nor terrible. He's like middle of the pack mechanically, which means I don't think that he'll struggle against the other NA Challenger junglers. I mean, he'll definitely not struggle versus the NA Challenger junglers because there's really very little that are any good competition. But in the NALCS, I could definitely see him being maybe like top 5, like on the upper half of the junglers. That was a really smart pickup by them. I did hear, however, that he wasn't that the people in Super Hot Crew weren't the only ones to blame. That some people have stated that he had a poor attitude on Super Hot Crew. So
yeah, I mean, I've heard it from both sides. I know that there was a lot of contention, contentious, kind of behavior between him and Selfie. Their differences seemed irreconcilable towards the end, and that was why they had to part ways ultimately. And some people have said actually Matt's attitude wasn't acceptable. I'm less inclined to believe that. Having met the guy and having seen how he conducts himself, and certainly having talked to members of the Acer organization when they were sponsoring the team, they had nothing but good things to say about him, which isn't always the case where Selfie's concerned. Sorry, go on.
As someone who knows Impaler on a personal level, I've never really had an issue with his attitude at all. Like, I've known him back when he was a Dig UK player, like a year ago, and he's a great guy, but even great guys can have issues, but maybe a poor attitude can show up when you're around other poor players. Going on to Coast is kind of a fresh slate. if the attitude and the environment is good there, and the people listen to Impaler's calls, he'll be able to become a better shot caller and give Coast a really solid chance to make into LCS.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like Light's theory of toxicity there, Ram, so be very careful. You know how I hate that. So I'll come back to Mike, and we'll talk about the other part of the equation, which is the acquisition of Jesiz, which I've got to be honest, out of the two signings, I think this is the smarter of the two, and I'll tell you why. He just had this horrible series of performances at Worlds, which we've already talked about in previous shows. And you know, his stock was at an all-time low, if you like. I don't think he could have found another team that would have been willing to pick him up. So for Coast to come in and offer him this lifeline, and I actually think he'll do very well, and I fancy Coast to qualify. I think we will see him in the LCS, and I think he'll surprise a lot of people. I think he'll come back. Mike, what do you think about that idea?
I think Jesiz is very different from Impaler, because from what I've seen, Jeziz's attitude seems to be very good. His mechanics and his leadership role is not that good, but he's still a young player and he's still got a lot of potential. So perhaps he might get incredibly good over a year because he's so young, and you never know how people improve. So I would say he haven't reached his peak yet. He haven't reached his skill ceiling, and he can definitely improve. But it's also really important to note that right now he's not the strongest player, and they need to get through the qualification rounds. But if they manage to get through that, I assume he'll do very well.
So, Josh, when someone new comes into a team, obviously someone has to go out. And there was a lot of confusion about what happened with Lod. I mean, a lot of people presume Coast had done what Coast do, and that's fuck over players with ridiculous decisions. But in actual fact, in this instance, it apparently is the case that he left. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if that's some agreement they've come to. But he'd only been re-signed with Coast for a month. So what do you think about, you know, Jesiz over Lod? A lot of people are saying they should have stuck with Lod as a player and persuaded him to stay.
I don't think that it was necessarily LOD wanted to go, but I think he kind of understood it, and he wanted to like stay on good terms with them. I think it'll be better for both parties. I think LOD was kind of in a maybe wasn't in the best mindset at the time. I don't know. When we scribbed them on my old team, they always shit on us, so I assumed everything was just hunky-dory over there. They were doing fine. But maybe he hit a rough patch. He's really young. He's an emotional guy. But he's really... I know he really got along with MASH and some of the players on Coast. So I think for their sake, he, like, probably Coast approached him and said, hey, like, we can pick up Jesiz and Impaler. Like, you might get fucked over, but it's like, is this cool? You know? He was like, all right. So... honestly, I think he was kind of, you know, forced to step down, but I think it was a smart move on him to step down, because here's the thing about LOD is he came to mid lane from an AD carry role, and I think he's one of those players that's like, you should really get back to your main role. It's sort of kind of how I felt about Nien for the longest time, and now he's back to AD carry, and I'm happy. But LOD, in my opinion, is an AD carry at heart, and he said he kind of hinted that he'd be going back to that, and that would make me happy if he did that.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
I think there's something else important to remember. Jesiz was always compared to the best mid laners in Europe because he was on the top 3 team, and Coast is not a top 3 team, so it's very different as well because of that. Because if you're playing on one of the best teams, you'll always be compared to the teams around your level in the time.
Also,
go on, Ram.
Last week we had Candy Panda on, and Candy Panda really emphasized that SK kind of told Jesiz to play their playstyle and never deviate from it. Maybe on Coast it's a different story, and they'll allow Jesiz to branch out. You know, maybe just because he only performed well on these champions because that's what he only knew how to play. I think with the new acquisition of Jesiz on Coast and a different skill ceiling there, he can perform well on other champions and kind of figure out his own play style, what works for him. Because he really was kind of forced to play the SK way rather than any other way. And maybe he just wasn't good at that specific play style.
I mean, I don't know really kind of the ins and outs. I didn't see, LOD or Lod as I call him, play quite a lot. But a lot of people seem absolutely adamant that, he is a stronger player than Jesiz. I can't help but feel that a lot of people have had their views about Jesiz poisoned, if you like, by how poorly he performed at Worlds. And it kind of seems that, therefore, they've got this real unrealistic comparison to the person that he's, going to be replacing. I think Jesiz will have used this time since Worlds to really work on his game and maybe increase his champ pool. I don't know if you guys have maybe seen him out there in the, the depths of solo queue, spamming any particular champs. Maybe if anyone's got any insight as to what he's been doing. I'm kind of looking at you a little bit here, Mike.
I haven't seen Jesiz at all in solo queue. I don't know. A lot of pros play in Smurf, so you don't actually know if you play against him, but I haven't seen him at all and have no idea.
What about you, Ram?
I'm a huge Lod fanboy, so I'm not really a big fan of this this change, because I definitely think that Lod is a super skilled player. But I have no real expectations. Like, okay, my only expectation is I expect Jesiz to not be the worst mid laner in the NA Challenger. Like, that's my expectation. Like, I expect him to fully be easily one of the top 3 mids in the NA Challenger.
I don't think that's up for debate. I think
he's not that bad. He's not that bad. Like, let's
I think he will perform in NA. I wouldn't say it's particularly a region that has an abundance of strong mid laners, frankly.
In a way, they kind of do, but in some ways, they don't. I just want to see how well that team performs well, because Jesiz, from what we've seen, he's a team player, and all we know about Jesiz is that he is a team player and that he kind of does what he needs to do for the team's success. We've never really seen Jesiz as the solo player, right, or as the main attraction, if you will. Can he make that evolution and become that main attraction and do well with it? We'll have to see in the expansion tournament. But if history repeats itself, then he will be another team player, and maybe he just fits better on Coast than he did on SK. Like, maybe he can perform better. Like, there's a lot of maybes here, and I'm just going to have to bring up the super overused word, is that the potential is still there. Like, there is potential for something to happen. Whether or not it will happen, we'll never be able to tell until after the expansion tournament, after we see him perform.
I got one question. Do you think Coast had a good chance of making it through with the current roster?
Yeah.
Not without Santorin.
With Lord Santorin? Without
Santorin.
Yeah, with Lord Santorin, I thought they had definitely had like a good chance. Like, I saw Curse Academy, like, this is before the acquisition of Team Fusion. I was 100% certain it was going to be Curse Academy and Coast. Like, without a doubt, that those were the 2 teams going to qualify. Lord Santorin, that duo was really good for Coast, and it would have been excellent. Santorin leaves, this is probably their best bet.
I mean, I think they're still gonna, they've got to be there or thereabouts with the roster they've got now. Seriously, I mean, it's not like, I definitely agree that Santorin's a massive driving force, no doubt about it. But Impaler is a step down from Santorin. All due respect to Matt, but I still think, looking at the other teams they've got, let's not forget some of the other teams that they're going to be coming up against have had huge problems. Complexity, for example.
Don't even talk about Complexity. They're out of the equation, dude. They're completely out of the equation.
Yeah.
You think Complexity is out of the equation?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Wow. Right now, Complexity are out of the equation. So it's not a case of, Team Coast getting stronger and therefore they're going to win it as a result of that. But actually, some of the teams around them that, would have been contenders have actually got a lot weaker. And you seem surprised at that, Josh. I think Complexity is a fucking mess right now, sadly.
I think Bubba and the Dubs are a pretty good team. The Bubba Dub squad.
Complexity.
They've got the core.
Yeah.
The main core of Complexity. Yeah, sorry, Josh. Keep going.
That's kind of what I consider Complexity right now, is Bubba Dub's team. They kind of like split apart, and I think right now you kind of have 2 weaker teams. But I think Bubba, the team with Bubba, Robert, and Prolly, will still be a contender, and I kind of refer to them as Complexity, because I think they'll probably be taking the Complexity spot, right? Since they have 3 out of the 5 players.
So I did research on that, just to interject real fast. I did research on that while the org does own the spot, if they were a previous LCS team, they need to field 3 out of 5 of the roster to hold it. Basically, what could happen if Cole don't want to run the Bubba Dub squad, they lose their spot, but that doesn't mean the Bubba Dub squad takes it. They have to go through ranked 5s. It kind of has to go both, right? So Cole owns the spot, but to use that spot, it's like having a voucher, right? Like imagine as a voucher. Cole has the voucher, but for them to use the voucher, they need 3 out of 5. And if they don't have 3 out of 5, that voucher is useless and no one gets it. It's kind of how it is. I would be very surprised if Cole don't take this one, though. Like I would be very surprised if the Bubba Dub team is not going to be the Cole team in the expansion, though.
Yeah, I don't know which way that's going to go, man. I mean, I really don't. It's such a strange situation they've got themselves into. And, you know, I'm good friends with Jason Bass and Jason Lake. And, you know, I don't want to ever say anything bad about Complexity. It doesn't come easy to me. I've followed that organization all my esports life. But they continually seem to get themselves into these, what us British folk would call pickles, over and over again, with what seems to be poor management or bad decision making. And, you know, again, if we're being full disclosure, because that's what this show's all about, they had the chance to get Impaler, and I believe it was Casing as well, was going to be the other pickup for them. And that move didn't materialize because they left it too long. Sorry, Josh, you were going to say something.
Yeah. I was just kind of on the point that Complexity is an interesting beast right now. Just because I don't think the organization is going to go with Bubba Dub and them. I think there's kind of a divide right now, especially since I'm pretty sure Complexity like just signed Golden Glue. Like, didn't they sign him? So now they're kind of in an interesting situation where like I don't know like what if the org can like just drop Golden Glue and go sign with them, or if they even want to do that.
Yeah. Because
I know right now the Complexity, the coaching staff is siding with the who's left, Kez and Westrace, that team. So it's they're
Did you just drop out?
in an interesting divide right now, and they're both definitely weaker than what they'd be altogether as 5. But I do think that did I drop out?
No, I think it was just a little lag spike. Maybe your proxy's kicking in again.
Maybe. But anyway, as I was saying, just the 5 of them combined would obviously be better than either of them split. But I do think the room for growth is definitely with the team with Bubba Dub and Robert and Probably. I still think they have the highest cap and like have the highest potential of being a contender in the promotion tournament.
So last part of this kind of collection of stories, and then we'll move on to the next topic. And I'll bring it back to you, Mike, as the guest. Santorin to TSM. Again, story I got to break, you know, I'm kind of tired of repeating that. But a huge pickup for him as an individual, actually. And, you know, I don't know how he's going to find life in the spotlight. Usually people don't react too well to it. What are your thoughts as, you know, someone that's competed at Worlds, played against the very best? Does the Santorin do you think he's going to bring what TSM need? And do you think he's going to be able to cope and become a, you know, world-class elite jungler?
So for me, I don't know exactly what TSM needs, because I think the team overall was solid. They need to improve in a lot of areas, and I think that's a lot to do with how they practice and the attitudes they have in the team. So if they kicked Amazing, I'd assume it's something to do with his attitude, potentially, or that Santorin is far superior to him mechanically, but I don't think he is. So it's probably some way he behaved in the team, and I think Santorin could possibly be an improvement there.
Okay, what about you, Ram? I mean, Santorin, I mean, you've talked about Santorin there, saying, you know, well, you spoke about him quite favorably. You really rate this player.
I think he's a good player. I definitely do. I think he's a good jungler, but he's a downgrade from Amazing.
Okay. Well, why do you say that, though? Qualify that.
I think that Amazing is better mechanically, has a better understanding of the game. People are going to bring up this champion pool issue, but like, I do just think that Amazing, watching him play recently right now on Secret Team #1, I think that the champion pool issue would have been fixed for Season 5, and he would have been the best possible candidate for jungle for TSM. And I knew that if they were going to get an NA jungler, even if it was a grandfather jungler, the only one that would be able to match it would be Dexter. Anyone else is going to be a downgrade. I think that Amazing is kind of like Santorin is like Amazing Light in many different ways. Is the way to put it there, because I also only have seen Santorin perform on LAN on 2 champions as well. He kind of has that same issue. His Nunu was super underwhelming, whereas his Elise and Lee are very, very good.
Josh, I mean, you must have come across Santorin in your travels in the bowels of the NA scene. What do you make of the player, and do you see him as a TSM caliber jungler?
The thing I find funniest about this is I think he is the most comparable to Amazing of any of the junglers. I don't think he's that big of a downgrade from Amazing mechanically, but he's the type of jungler where I don't see Amazing as the one shot calling or the one with a whole. Not to hit on his game sense, but it seems like all that's mostly on Bjergsen. That's kind of where I see it
Yeah.
with Santorin as well. As far as I know, Santorin wasn't the shot caller for Coast. It was usually don't mash me or sheep. Or I know Mash has a lot of game knowledge. He tends to call rotations and stuff, but it wasn't Santorin. So I think he will be like a pretty good fill-in for Amazing in terms of TSM. So I don't think there's going to be like a whole lot of downtime in terms of synergy issues. I think he kind of serves the same role Amazing did. It's just going to be a matter of if he performs under the spotlight of TSM or not. He's got a tall task.
Don't get me wrong. Like, by no means am I saying that Santorin is bad, but like right now, Santorin has to show a lot of growth to get that level, and he's a young guy. Like, if we're gonna talk about young and potential, Santorin is like the best guy to talk about it because he's a young player. If you put him on a team like TSM, who can breed him. Sorry, they can develop him.
Oh God!
It's kind of like no. Like, let's be real for a
You're
second.
fucking obsessed, Ram. It's always sexual with you.
It's kind of like a Glebe 2.0 in a way, like a young player fresh from Challenger, whereas Santorin I think that Santorin.
Yeah, but look how that worked out.
Exactly, but that was
Glebe was a fucking nervous wreck by the end.
Right, but Santorin, I know him personally. He's a lot more outgoing, a lot more aggressive personality. He's Danish. He's got the jawline of a god. Like. I mean, I do think that Santorin is going to succeed where Glebe failed in that same kind of way, right? I think that TSM, with the support staff that they have, which is fantastic, they'll be able to develop Santorin into a great jungler if Santorin puts in the right work. And I can't speak very much for Santorin's work ethic because I don't know much about it, but I'm assuming that since he has gotten better since his transition to NA, that he does put a lot of effort into getting better.
I got one question to that. I don't remember TSM.
Just before you ask your question, I wanted to ask you a question, and I'm the host, so I supersede it, and then you can do your question.
That's fine.
No, the thing I was thinking was one of the things that people have said is that they think Santorin and Bjergsen will have this great synergy together, that they're going to be this awesome pairing. Now, a lot of people talked about Alliance and their great mid-jungle synergy, and we know that maybe hasn't always worked out. So I just wanted your perspective on, do you think Santorin and Bjergsen are going to perhaps be greater together with that synergy than the sum of their parts, if you like?
Folk ja for helvete pulse. That's basically what's going to be said every game.
I don't even know what that means. But, I mean...
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, come on, you're Danish, you know.
No, I did not understand anything you said.
Oh, my God.
So, but I mean, do you think that partnership is going to be something that actually can make each other, stronger together?
Sure, why not?
I'm asking you, Mike. I'm asking you, Mike.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, specifically you.
I have
Because
no
the reason I'm asking you is because obviously the situation with Alliance, where people talk about,
I think jungle and mid synergy is... It depends on Santorin's playstyle. For example, like some junglers are really good cooperating with some players. It depends on the personalities, it depends on his playstyle and where he likes to gang. And on the team he joins, some players are really good at setting up ganks, and he doesn't even need any synergy and knowing how to gang it because the players in that lane knows it. For example, then I played with Cripple, right? Cripple would always try to say, I warded here, I cleared the wards here. Snoopy, whenever you gank, you come down this path, and we can get a kill. And then Cripple will say, don't come in the next 2 minutes because it's not going to work, and so on. And they have vision everywhere, so it depends a lot on the team and the players.
Talking really nicely about Crepo, does that mean Alliance Crepo is confirmed?
So what is what was your question? What were you going to ask, Wickd? Was it someone Alliance?
Yeah, I was going to ask something. You talked a lot about TSM growing Santorin into a better player and so on.
Yeah.
And my one question is, I don't remember TSM ever really growing a player up. I remember TSM as an organization that picks players that have already grown in their skill and are already excellent. And from what I remember, they tried the Glebe, it didn't work out. And apart from that, I don't remember anything else.
They did it with Amazing. Like Amazing went from a 6th place EU team to out of group stages at Worlds.
Amazing went from a 6th placed EU team that everybody praised his play in that team, and Bjergsen did the same. Bjergsen was not one of the top teams, but everybody was praising Bjergsen for turning around his team. I don't think either of those players were bad at that time. They had already grown, and they were already showed a lot of potential before joining TSM.
Exactly, they showed a lot of potential, just like Santorin is showing a lot of potential. But you put him in an environment which is basically sink or swim. If he's got the potential and a good support staff behind him, like I'm not denying that. I think that Loco and whoever TSM have behind them know what they're doing, because TSM went from never beating Cloud9 to being first in the region for the first time since Cloud9 came to the LCS. I do think that they're going to succeed. Like I said earlier, they're going to succeed where they failed with Glebe with Santorin.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that. And, you know, look, I don't like to chip in with opinions on players, because people say, you know, who the fuck are you? And it's an avenue fraught with peril for any journalist, as I'm sure Thorin could attest to if he was here. But you know, I always felt that you know, that TSM have had good junglers. Like I used to think the Odd One was actually kind of a little bit underrated, especially towards the end of his tenure. It was more just the situation in the team, which was Reginald's performance was so important to TSM. If he didn't win lane, if he didn't snowball, they weren't going to win. So the Odd One had to spend his entire time effectively camping mid and acting like a second support for the benefit of Reginald. So you didn't really get to see the best of him towards the end of his career. But, you know, he's quite a humble guy. You know, he's a beta type. So he was going to do it with no question. You know, he's often called the general, but in this instance, he was a much better soldier. With the introduction of Bjergsen, you've got a player who, you know, kind of freed them from that problem. And now you've got Santorin, who I think is a very, you know, potentially aggressive jungler and somebody that has the potential to dominate games from the jungle. I think if you combine those two, I think that could be something that could really propel TSM to the next level. And I think it's a very good acquisition for them, provided he can cope with the pressure. Just my thoughts.
I think our co-host died there, boys.
That's all right. Josh is always in and out of these shows. It's because he's talking about European players. Even once that play in NA, he just can't be bothered. But so yeah, I mean that's my opinion on it. I think we'll move on. We won't talk too much about TSM from here. We'll move on to our other topics of discussion. So I want to bring up the big one while Mike's here and while Josh is away. It's a European topic anyway, so he'd be useless. And that is obviously to talk about Alliance, which I'm pretty sure you'll be able to give me some insight to, Wickd, provided the PR answers don't kick in. And that is obviously Tabzz, the Tabzz situation. So Tabzz left Alliance, or rather he wasn't re-signed. I'll start with that. Can you clarify what it was? Did you guys effectively, was it more of a kick? Did he make the choice not to re-sign? What was the dynamic in Tabzz leaving?
So the dynamic right now is that Tabzz haven't been sent a contract, which is everything. He haven't been sent a contract that is signed by anybody, and that's simply it.
So that sounds like there's almost a potential for him to sign a contract at a later date.
I would say that there's a potential for everything in an off season. You never know what's going to happen. And yes, he haven't been sent a contract, but that doesn't mean it's 100% that he's not in the team. That just means he haven't been sent the contract yet.
But he's not coming back to the team. I mean, he's burnt the bridge, right? You know, he took to the Ask FM and he said it wasn't a fun team to be in. He said that you underperformed. He said some pretty mean stuff. I mean, so you guys would need to be pretty fucking desperate to bring him back in the team after he says stuff like that, right?
Dude, I can AD carry. Hit me up.
So I think The only thing that really hurt me was the fact that he said we weren't a fun bunch to hang out with. And that was kind of sad for me because I always felt like we go out often with the team after LCS or something. We have a fun time. Sometimes you didn't want to join, sometimes you did. It depended. And I think the main difference is that everybody's different. There's so many different persons out there in the world, and he enjoys other stuff than we do generally. So perhaps it wasn't as fun for him as it was for us. But I still consider Tabzz a friend. I know he said those kind of things, but perhaps that's also because he's kind of desperate and he hasn't been sent a contract and he's really sad and emotional or whatever. I don't know exactly what's going on there. And then that happens. People lash out sometimes. It depends on the people. And I don't blame him too much for it because he's a good friend of mine and we spent a year together and we had a lot of fun together, at least from my point of view. And also, 2 days ago or so, he apologized for making that post to everybody of us because he realized it wasn't that cool of him. That's without any of us talking to him about it. So obviously he didn't feel too great about it and he just lashed out, which can happen to anybody. And I don't blame him too much for it because he was in a pretty bad situation and he probably felt he performed well and he's sad. So things like that happen.
But so here's the thing, though, right? He also talked a lot about how Rekkles was kind of like the fifth Beatle. You know, he was always hanging around, you know, always trying to take his job. Now, I know, and it's okay if you don't want to, you know, share or admit it, but you know, I know you guys have talked to Rekkles. You've definitely talked to him. You've definitely had interactions with him. I'm not saying you've necessarily offered him contracts. I'm not saying you've necessarily said, "Hey, join our team." But you guys have talked to him. You know, he's not a stranger to you. Do you think you guys as players maybe perhaps put it in Tabz's mind that he wasn't welcome on the team?
I think that we have talked to Rekkles obviously throughout the year. We've been really good friends, and Fnatic is the team we have talked to the most of any team. But if I would rate who we have talked to the most from Fnatic out of the whole year, I would say we talked way more to Peke and Soas and Cyanide than Rekkles, I would say, because those guys go out a lot with us, where Rekkles doesn't go out as much because he was 17, so he couldn't always go out. It's very limited where you can go when you're 17. So we talked less to Rekkles than any of our players during the year, so I don't think that's why he got that feeling.
What about the overall sort of perspective that you may have been looking at replacing elements of the bot lane? Because I mean, certainly that seemed to be surprising to a lot of Alliance fans. You know, I think a lot of people were like, actually, the bot lane's fine. In fact, again, if we're being honest, I mean, some people would have pointed to yourself and said, maybe it's time for, you know, Wickd to make way, and if they replace the top lane, everything would be better. And again, not necessarily an opinion that I share, but certainly some people said it. So were you guys, like, did you have internal discussions, and did it ever come up that maybe it was time to change something? And did the majority of the team think that something was the AD carry?
I think it's very different how the community perceives how you perform and how you actually perform. And it's the same for players. Some players will perceive you perform well and others think that you perform bad. It just depends a lot. I think the biggest problem in our team, if you look at World Finals during the entire split, was consistency, which would tell me that our problem wasn't really our skill level overall. Our skill level was pretty good because we managed to beat every single team we played against. We just either played really good or played really bad, which I would relate to the way we practice and the atmosphere and the attitude. And as Tabzz said himself, he didn't enjoy being in the team that much. He's been unmotivated and he's having a hard time finding motivation to play the game and things like that. So from our point of view, that would obviously be one of the problems we would have in the team, because we believe everyone else is very motivated and is trying their best and played a lot.
So I'll, yeah, you jump in.
Just want to clarify, because I've just got some information from someone who was watching Tabzz stream not too long ago. He said on his stream that, I'm not going to quote it because I don't know the quote, just he said that he didn't want to play on the team Alliance if you weren't going to do roster changes. Like, he wanted roster changes. Is that necessarily true? And if so, what roster changes do you think he was looking at?
So I know. Wait. I know. Back in time, 3-4 weeks ago or so, like right after Worlds, he was ready to play again with the same roster, no changes. If he got a contract, he would have signed it. I know that information. I don't know if anything have changed in recent times. I don't know if anything his mind changed. I'm not watching his stream all the time, and I haven't talked to him extremely much lately. So I can't answer if it changed, but I know 3-4 weeks ago he would have signed for the same team.
Okay, and another thing is that he claims that Alliance wanted Rekkles, and that they liked Rekkles more as a person than you guys liked Tabzz.
Which is also as well, Mike. You know, I mean, that's the rumor. You know, that's what guys like me, you know, journalists have been told as well.
This also isn't the last question. This is just leading into the next one. What do you have to say about this specific statement? Like, just go on. Tell me what you think about this statement.
Where we like Rekkles more than Tabzz as a person.
Yeah, sure. How about that one?
I can't answer for everybody in the team. I get along well with both of them. I like both players on different in different scenarios. I think Tabzz is really fun to hang around with playing different games and just having fun in that kind of sense. Where I think Rekkles is more fun than you going out because he likes doing that a lot, and it's more like I like hanging out with Tabzz, and I think Tabzz is a great person. Then I hang out with him and the things he enjoys doing. But I prefer hanging out with Rekkles and the things he enjoys doing, and that's how I have with most persons. I don't have a problem with either of them, and I think both of them are awesome people.
All right, last one though. Sorry, Richard.
I know, fucking hell. What's happened there? I've been demoted.
It's pretty important, actually.
All right, go on, dude.
A lot of people, when they were looking at the statements of roster changes on Alliance, a lot of people stated that they didn't feel that Tabzz was the issue. And me as well was a little bit concerned when I saw that Tabzz was not re-signing with Alliance or didn't sign or claimed that he was a free agent. Because a lot of people, when they're pointing fingers at Alliance, like even before they point fingers at you, Wickd, they point fingers at Nif. And a lot of people have claimed that Tabzz, that it's well known that Tabzz does not enjoy laning with Nif. And I'm going to have to side on the side where I feel that Nif is just not a quality player. Do you think that he was aiming to replace Nif as a support, or was Alliance looking to replace Nif as a support? You obviously play on the team. You don't want to. I understand that you wouldn't want to talk too much about this, but what's your stance on these statements?
So
the anti-Nif statements.
As I said, I haven't talked much to Tabzz, but from what I've seen and from the statements he made, it could seem that he wanted to change Nif, and I don't know if he wanted to change me as well. I don't know about that, but it could seem that he didn't like cleaning the Nif and so on. The only thing I question about that is because I think Nerf mechanically is very strong. He's a very good mechanical player. He's very good at laning. For me, Nerf's problem is that often he gets frustrated, which makes him do something incredibly stupid. And he knows it's stupid, but he still does it because he's frustrated, which often happens because of our communication and he feels we don't listen to him enough. And I think what Nerf needs is a coach. If you get a proper coach, I think Nerf can be incredibly good. He got the skill. That's not an issue. I think the only problem Nerf is having is frustration and sometimes knowledge, where he's somewhere he shouldn't be. But skill-wise, he's not a problem.
So I'll just bring Josh into this. Josh, have you ever played in a team before where one of the players has kind of broke ranks, if you like, and just suddenly turned around and said a bunch of crazy shit about the people that he used to play with, you know, seemingly from left field? I thought Tabzz was just a quiet dude. I thought he just, you know, was the Alliance AD carry, you know, was just, again, a workhorse. And then when I saw his Ask FM and all of the shit that he was saying, I was like, this is fucking crazy to come out and say this shit. I mean, there's burning bridges, and then there is just like, I don't even care how this goes. Like, I don't give a fuck. It's tossing a grenade, you know, into the room. So have you ever been part of anything like that?
Maybe nothing to that extent. Again, I don't know a whole lot about the inner machinations of what happened here, but I think this just kind of happens when maybe there are subtle things that I notice after being on teams that like can really get under people's skin. For example, it would really piss me off sometimes when during like the season 3 when somebody would come up to me and was like, wow, Meteos is like doing so fucking well doing this, and just like saying stuff like that can get under people's skins. So maybe like what was happening with him was maybe he felt that his team had a high. Yeah, it's kind of funny with Wickd here talking to the third person as team, but maybe the rest of Alliance like he thought they really thought that highly of Rekkles, and maybe thinking that highly like it's like wow they like him more than me. Why am I even here? I hate these guys. And then like not getting that out and not really talking to your teammates as much, it builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up to the point where he just can't take it anymore. So I kind of think that's
sorry.
kind of like what
It's kind of like
I know.
It's kind of like a weak relationship. Like if you're like with a girl and she's kind of like hanging out with this new guy, and they could be just friends. Like that new guy could be
yes.
Alliance could be Tabzz' girlfriend. Is like hanging out with this new friends. It's like, oh, they're spending time together. They're talking. They're having fun. You're sitting there like, holy shit, is my girlfriend leaving me for this other guy? And like, it could not happen. It could be that that's not the case. And
you sound like you're talking from personal experience here, Ram.
I am a paranoid little guy. Okay, I've been through too much shit to talk about on stream, but let's just say, for example, that's kind of what Tabzz was going through. It's that it seemed that way, and the communication between Tabzz and said girlfriend wasn't good enough. So it kind of seemed that Rekkles was swooping in, being like, "Mr. Steal Your Girl," and kind of take Tabzz' job away.
Yeah.
So
like what
Tabzz was like, well, you know what? Like, I'm not going to think of all the good stuff. Let's start talking about all the bad stuff. That when he talks about it in a way that it seems like that was the only thing going on. And it kind of amplified, like the paranoia of him losing his job kind of amplified the resentment that he was holding in.
Well, I do think that could possibly have been an issue because I do know that in our team, when we thought somebody was good, everybody would always say, that guy is really fucking good. So then we saw Rekkles do something awesome, and then we saw Incarnation do something awesome, or whoever, we would always say, holy shit, that guy's so good. And we even said that about Meta a lot, then Meta was playing for Samsung White, because I think, at least I believe, that Meta was the best player in the game at that point. He was incredible. He, on a support role, managed to single-handedly carry a lot of games, and I was like, holy shit, that's insane. And I know Nif sometimes got annoyed about me because I loved how Meta played, because Meta was so amazing. So I do think that's an issue we could have in the team, and that's maybe something we should look at, because if that is an issue, and since you guys, or Josh at least, said that he had experience with something like that being an issue, it's perhaps something we should look into and change.
So just like, sorry, go on, Josh.
Going back to Ram's analogy, it's like this has been going on a while, and then Tabzz got his fucking bags packed, and then just like says farewell, like goodbye, Alliance. The Alliance is there, like, the fuck just happened? Like,
yeah, but actually, his Ask FM was like the intellectual equivalent of revenge porn. He just like started posting nudes, like on the fucking. He went wild, like, you know, the relationship ended real fucking bad. Like, you know, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I was reading it and I was like, dude, stop now. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And, you know, and I don't think the guys in Alliance fucking deserve that. Whatever happened, some things should stay private, I believe.
Well, I guess it's if you're dating a girl and you have a bad breakup and she starts posting news of you, that's not so nice, but eventually you'll get over it, though.
Well, eventually. But I mean, you know, I think there's even the knock-on, you know, like the reputation issues. Like, you know, you said to us before we come on stream, you were like, fuck, we're actually fun guys to hang out with. And, you know, Ram's had a drink with you. I've had a drink with you. I think you guys are pretty fucking fun.
Don't remember that night. Which was a good night.
Yeah, so, you know.
So Froggen said the same, but he remembered some of it, though.
Oh, I remember the karaoke. Froggen's an amazing singer, but let's just keep going here.
You're a pretty good singer, too, I must say.
Oh, yeah.
Get it. You're all European. We get it. Yeah.
I'll tell the story
I can't
about that,
drink,
though.
thanks.
Froggen went up to the karaoke bar and he had to sing Electric Avenue, a song that he's never heard before. So he was kind of sitting up there with like three other guys and he was just like bobbing up and down like da Electric Avenue, like with the Danish accent. So just imagine me with a potato in my mouth. That's kind of how it went going.
which isn't hard to do.
I don't think a potato would be enough.
Since we're talking about karaoke, and we're definitely not gonna leave Wickd alone. We're gonna grill him some more in a second. But let's bring up that video, Ram. I thought it was a fake. So can we, Sam? Are you with us, producer? Yeah, here he is. He's floating, the voice in the background. If we sent you a video now, could you play it on stream?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, Ram, send him the video. Post it in chat. You're gonna be the guy that puts the bullet in your own head.
Jesus Christ, we do this every episode, you know?
I know, it is becoming a bit of a thing now where it's like, let's embarrass Brokenshard for a moment.
This is the embarrassed Brokenshard segment.
To be fair, the show's been pretty shambolic up until this point, so I'm glad that we've got the comic relief to fall back on. But yeah, so for those that haven't seen this video, I didn't even know. I thought it was a joke because I saw Yamoto Cannon post this ages ago, and he was like, "Lol, Brokenshard," and it was just a video of some kid who's a little bit chubby, and he sits on a table, and the table breaks, and I thought it was like a metaphor, like
I was 13, man. I was 13.
Yeah, but I didn't think for a minute it was really you. I thought he was just saying you're the kind of person who, if you sat on a table, it would break. So
it would, though. That's the thing.
So we're not gonna say anything. If everyone's just quiet while we play the video. Can you get sound on this as well, sir?
Yeah, sir.
Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter. No.
First blood.
What did I just watch?
Oh my god.
So I gotta ask, Ram, what the fuck were you thinking?
I don't even know, man.
Like, seriously, what pretext was that? Why are you singing? What's going on? What? Why haven't you deleted that from the internet?
So that group was, we were filming over the weekend for a history project, right? Like, we were just filming it. We were at the apartment and we saw the playground, and like, it was some guy's idea to start singing that song. And he told me, like, all right, so everyone's gonna be on the slide. We're gonna start it. You're gonna sing. You're gonna sit on the table and you're gonna sing it. You're gonna keep going. We'll use it as like a blooper. It'll be funny. What I didn't know is that they planned for the table to fucking break, and I sat on it. So when I did sit on it and it broke, I kind of just lay there like, fuck's sake. That's all I have to. It was just a fucking stupid moment, and it was caught on camera.
So I got to ask then, what's more embarrassing, Wicked? Is it that video, or was it Froggen's attempts to sing Electric Avenue in a karaoke bar?
Oh, it was definitely that video. Froggen is awesome in karaoke. He's hilarious. Like, Froggen isn't embarrassing when you watch him. He's just so stupid that it's hilarious and you can't stop laughing, and that's awesome.
I think you all need to restart your cameras as well. I think the awesomeness of that video just basically killed Skype. Hopefully that'll work. But anyway, I just fuck, I don't even know how we got onto that tangent, but I thought it was important that we definitely brought that to the table. So what we'll do is, I think while we fix the cameras, we'll take a quick break. And we'll be back. And what we're going to be talking about when we get back from the break, you might ask. Well, still, we haven't even got into half of it yet. Obviously, we'll be talking about Horo and Ryu going to Millenium. We definitely want to talk about that. We haven't really talked about whether Rekkles is actually going to join Alliance, which I'm pretty sure he is, but we'll see if Mike gives anything away. We've also as well got Thorin's Missing Link, which is a video editorial he did, which was talking about CLG. And we also want to have a general discussion about criticism for players when they're in the spotlight, because every player that's on this show right now certainly knows a thing or two about that. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Thanks for watching.
2, 3, 4. Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter, no, 'cause I got you. Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter, no, 'cause I got you, babe. Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter, no.
First blood.
Should I start stinging? Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to First Blood. We kind of melted Reddit with what just occurred before we went to the break. Our cameras are back working. You can see all our lovely faces, and you can see Ram looking like a deer in the headlights. I don't know. I can't tell if he's laughing, or crying. It's really hard to tell at the moment. But we gave the audience what they wanted, Ram, and you're a born entertainer. I think we can glean that much from that video. So, but back to League of Legends. And we're going to move on to some other topics. But before we do, I think we do need to wrap up just one pressing one. And that is, of course, about Rekkles and Alliance. And just so happens we've got a member of Alliance with us. So, Wickd, $15,000 is the proposed buyout. You're going to pay that out of your own pocket to bring him to the team, aren't you?
I've got my wallet right here. I'm willing to outbid you. I am getting this Swede. He's mine. I have made enough money off my singing career to buy this guy.
I was going to say, table insurance is paid off.
Brokenshard, can I ask you one thing?
Yeah.
If you're going to buy Rekkles, what exactly do you intend to use him for?
That
I'm not sure if I want to know this, but I assume all the fans would like to know this.
That is for me to know and for the fangirls to think very, very long and hard about.
Oh, don't, please.
Oh, God.
Please,
Don't
no. Look. Poor Josh, he's already been sick once today. Stop this.
Okay, I should not ask a question. Anyways, so regarding any roster changes we're doing, I as a player should not talk about it because
obviously
I'm on a contract and it's not my job to talk about roster changes. It's my organization and the other people around it. So I can't comment on roster swaps because that's just not my job and that's not what I'm hired for.
Exactly. No, and I totally get that. And I knew you would have to say that. But people are going to accuse you of PR bullshit, which isn't fair. They shouldn't do that. But they will spam that in chat. So let me ask it another way. Is Rekkles someone you would like to play with?
Me personally, I would like to play Rekkles. I think he's a good player. He seems to have a good attitude and he plays well. If you look at statistics, if you look at everything that's been said and anything, it's like that, yes.
And what about the kind of time frame within which you are going to need to make a decision? Because, on the one hand, people are saying we've got a long time before the next split, so lots of time to get things right. But a team like Alliance is going to want to practice, go over some of those team errors that happened, with freak occurrences like the Kaboom result and stuff. So I'm guessing you guys will want to make a decision fairly soon. Yeah, go on.
There's two things I can say to that. First of all, everyone on the team wants to practice as soon as possible. If we could, everyone would be ready to practice already tomorrow, or even tonight. People would probably be ready to play tonight, even though it's 12, if it was possible. However, it's not possible as of right now. And regarding the other question, we are playing I Am St. Joe's in December early. So if you want to have proper practice for that, and if you have a final roster by that time, yes, we do need to do it quick because else it's not going to be possible to get the practice in we need for the tournament, which would be a shame in my opinion.
Definitely. I think everyone wants to see you guys give a better account of yourselves than how things went down at Worlds.
I heard there was some Brazilian teams going to be there, though. Are you guys going to be ready to start?
Yeah, you've got to watch out. Mordecai's is coming for you, Mike.
That's being true. Did IEM ever give you a final time that you had to secure a roster?
So, if you have a final time or not, I have absolutely no idea. I don't think they have because I haven't been told about that. But they might have sent an email that I haven't heard about from our organization and management since they're the ones dealing with that. But I doubt they need to have a final roster before the event starts because I haven't heard anything about it and they haven't said anything publicly. And for all the other aims I have attended, you didn't actually have to have a roster as long as you shows up with a roster.
Okay.
All right. Well, I certainly hope it's resolved soon. And, I still like the idea of Rekkles for Alliance. I think, I know, my gut's kind of telling me that's the way it's going to go. I hope it does. I think it would be a good fit for all parties, and I think it could be something that helps put Alliance over the top for me. Now, anyway, I'm going to bring Josh back, who's changed settings. He's got away from the wild house party that was going on downstairs with his teammates. That Macnoon guy really tears it up. And we'll talk about something a bit more closer to home. I wanted to bring up Shiptur, being back with Team Dignitas. In previous shows, we kind of speculated a little bit that we weren't too sure whether Shiptur was going to re-sign or not. We didn't know whether that would be a good thing or not for Team Dignitas. So I'm going to ask you all about that since this is your area of expertise, Josh.
Okay. So Shifter re-signing with Dignitas. To me, it's not that big of a surprise. I do think that they want to obtain 2 foreign players. It would be my guess. I've heard that it's going to be AD carry and top lane, and obviously with them saying they've so far re-signed, Shifter, Crumbs, and Kiwi Kid, that would make sense. Especially, it doesn't surprise me with all the rumors of Zion Spartan going to CLG, Zion Spartan going here, there, anywhere, TSM, who knows? So it was kind of obvious Zion didn't want to stay on board. So it didn't surprise me that Shifter was going through as a result. And I had talked to Zion a little bit before the free agency started, and from the sound of it, I gathered from him that he didn't want to stay on Dignitas. I don't know why that is. Maybe it had to do with something about how Cutie Pie was saying, it wasn't fun to him anymore. Didn't feel like he was playing with his friends. It was too serious. It was too, cutthroat. So I almost think that Zion didn't like that environment either. He came from playing with really a team with me for the past 2 years. It wasn't cutthroat at all. We were all tight. We never wanted to replace anybody unless we absolutely had to.
Bad players, good friends. Go on.
Yeah. Sure, we'll go with that. But so yeah, I think that's not an environment he wanted to be in as well. But Shifter is a very dedicated player. He wants to be the best. He wants to go to Worlds. He wants to win Worlds. So, he's going to do what needs to be done, no matter what. He will, if his friends aren't performing, the friends got to go type deal. So, I think this is going to be a very Signitas. I just said serious and Dignitas in the same words.
I thought it was significant. I thought it was significant Dignitas.
I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I think this is going to be a very serious, we are making Worlds Dignitas team squad that's coming up. Because
wasn't that the squad that they kind of brought up in this season though? Wasn't that the Worlds Dignitas squad?
I guess, but it's you got Cutie Pie, who's still that kind of goofy ass dude. So they still kind of had that goofy I don't know. As long as Cutie Pie was on Dignitas, I just saw them as they have a lot of fun. Brokenshard's mouthing off to somebody in the
Ocelot is naked in front of me, and I'm doing my show.
Hell yeah.
So
close the door. I don't want to see this.
Oh my God.
That's a lie, Brokenshard.
Yeah.
You love seeing that.
Can you? Yes, all the way. That is not all the way. You're opening the door now. Oh my God.
Brokenshard.
You're stealing my Thunder Ram.
I know.
I'm sorry, but this is ugly as fuck. Okay, you're done. Go.
And don't look. You don't have to look, man.
I know. I think there's something almost closeted, dare I say, going on here. The lady doth protest too much, I think. But so yeah, back to Shifter.
Yeah, just from what I know about Shifter, and if he's gonna re-sign with a team that kind of did poorly, I guess you could say Dignitas ended the season kind of poorly. It means he's happy with the direction of the team going forward. And what I know about him is he's a very serious player. All that matters is winning. So
yeah,
that seems like that's what the Dignitas attitude is going to be.
Yeah, but so that begs the question, Josh. If all he cares about is winning, why is he re-signed with a Dignitas side that have arguably lost both of its star players?
I mean, okay, so I don't know, what went on inside Dignitas and who they thought was the problem or whatever, but it sounds like there's going to be a lot of promise for whoever they're bringing in. I've heard rumors of certain foreign players coming over that could be very exciting. So maybe that's tempting for him. That combined with the fact that where the hell else is he gonna go? I can't really, unless he wants to go back in the challenger scene, which is awful. Unless he were to do that, I don't see him really kind of joining an LCS team. Maybe CLG. Nobody knows what CLG is doing. That's the only team that really comes to mind. So I think this is his best bet, and I think he's gonna get what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, Odie sat in the chat last week and was going, I love all this speculation and, is calling us all bullshit artists, and that's why we love Mike. He's a great guy, and he is just playing with us. So Riot, don't fine him again, please. But I gotta say, like, I don't really know kind of what's gonna become of this new look Dignitas. I got some serious fears about how they're gonna do next split, and that's regardless of what foreign imports they bring to the table. I think that team has got some problems. Mike, obviously you've played against Dignitas in the past, and what did you make of the old lineup, and what do you think about the players that they've been left with?
Well, I think PewDiePie didn't seem as motivated in the way he was approaching, and he didn't seem as serious as other players, which is fine. And if he didn't enjoy playing with the team anymore, it's good that they let him go. He left himself. I don't know exactly what happened there. Then Sandspartan is a player I had a lot of respect for. He's probably in a top lane I talked to the most. Me and Sandspartan talked about if he ever was in the same region or whatever, we would practice a lot together, 1v1s, and just in general, during the split, we talked about what do you think is strong, what should we pick up, what is good in our region, and so on. So I talked a lot to him, and I watched a lot of his games because I liked him as a player. And I think if Sandspartan left or got kicked from Dignitas, he should be able to find another team. And if he got kicked and didn't leave, the only reason I could see that happening is because he had a really bad attitude within the team. I also believe he left.
I think he left.
I think I was going to say, I think that's the word on the street is that it was a leave rather than a kick.
For me, I don't really care much about an organization say, oh, he was let go or he left or something like that, because I know a lot of the time then organizations say, oh, he decided to leave himself, blah, blah, blah. It's often in the interest of the player because they don't want to say, oh, we kicked him because he was bad at this or something, because they still are friends and they still believe in that player and they still like him, so they don't want to potentially screw him over for new offers because they spend a year together or whatever. So often those statements are not always true.
Do you think there's a way? I mean, because I'm looking at, I think the NA region is getting stronger and stronger. I really do, and I gotta say, I kind of felt this a little bit last season, Mike. I'm sorry to say it in front of you, but I kind of felt NA was a more exciting league to watch, actually. I thought a lot of the European games were pretty boring. I found myself gravitating towards watching NA games a lot more than European ones. And I don't know, I think the region's got really strong. There's been a lot of high-profile signings. We've got a very exciting NA expansion tournament to come, and I think whoever comes up through that's going to bring something to the table. So could Dignitas realistically be looking at a season where they're fighting off relegation? And again, that's open. That's open to anybody. Anybody can jump in on that one.
Well, first of all, I'm completely shocked that you came out and said NA was more exciting than EU. Wow, holy crap. Thanks for stating the obvious, Richard.
No, but I mean, like, is it that obvious? I mean, I maybe it was
I think
obvious.
so. Just look at Twitch chat, Resident Sleeper, EU, blah, blah, blah. But I do think NA was... I don't know. NA's definitely been like making the moves, and this is kind of the first sign of Europe obviously signing Korean players. This is the first acquisition outside of their own region that they're making, so that's always exciting. Crap, I kind of forgot the original question you asked.
Well,
you're too busy burning me, you asshole.
I'm sorry.
I was saying, are Dignitas going to be fighting against relegation this season?
Oh, okay. It's completely possible. This is not the 3 Dignitas members I expected to stay. I expected not that I expected any of them to really leave, but I didn't expect this to be the combination of the 3. I expected like either Zion, Shifter, Crumbs, or maybe like QD, Kiwi, Zion, or something like that. But Crumbs, Shifter, Kiwi is kind of perplexing to me as the 3 that are staying. I didn't find that I didn't think like those 3 seemed to mesh as well as maybe some of the other 3 cores that they had. And obviously bringing in foreigners, that can be good, it can be bad. Obviously with Seraph it wasn't very good for CLG, so that all comes down to how they work as a team. And I don't want to bash the guy, but I do have experience working with Shiptur, and sometimes he can get a little quiet. And when you're working with new people, you have to really open up, and, be welcome, be warm. So, I mean, if they can get over that hump of like bringing in new players, especially foreign players, I think they can be okay. But they're definitely not in my list for like top 3 in NA next split.
Mike,
So,
what about your thoughts?
For me, I would rather just talk about the EU NA thing instead of the Dignitas thing. So I
Go
do
on,
agree.
let's have that argument.
I do agree that NA is more entertaining right now to watch. It's more fun because you know most of the players. You watch a lot of the NA streams to stream a lot more, and you get to know every player from all the teams through their streams, which I do agree. NA is more fun to watch. I don't think the EU games are more boring for. I think the games are similar in quality, but you can't relate to them, which makes them more boring for the individual. So that's my take on that.
I don't know, because I haven't really got the time to watch any streams, and I just found the games boring as shit compared to NA. So I don't know, dude. I think it's great that you're championing the region. I think what we need to do is, right, so Josh is on the, I won't have an opinion. We'll get Ram to decide it. Ram, which region is the more exciting? Completely, you played in both even, so you're the perfect guy to settle this argument.
I have a feeling that I'm going to get shit no matter what.
We're judging you, Broken.
Me.
Do you like the way I recused myself from this difficult?
Yeah, you're an asshole.
And I just put it all on you again, like as if I haven't fucked you enough this show. But come on,
I'm still staring at Naked Ocelot, dude. You can't keep your eyes off of him.
Basically, I had more fun playing on NA and being around the NA scene than the EU scene. I think that's more of a personal thing because a lot of the EU. Can you guys seriously fuck off?
Look, tell him.
First blood.
If he wants to come on the show, he's more than welcome, but he has to do it naked. So.
Personally, I think that for me, NA was a lot more fun. Solo queue wise, competitive wise, it was just a lot more fun. I like the people there more. Not to say that there aren't good people in EU, just that there were more cooler people on NA. The solo queue was definitely not toxic to my heart. Broke my heart. But I'm gonna have to agree with what Wickd said. Like, I think NA is more exciting purely because you kind of know the players on a more personal level than you do with EU. With EU, it's very limited to how much you know about the players. Whereas on NA, where like literally everybody's a streamer, there's only like a handful of people on teams that aren't streaming.
Why is that then? Okay, Mike. Why don't European people stream as much?
The second there's going to be more European streamers, people are going to be appalled at EU solo queue, basically.
No. The reason I think that there haven't been many European streamers is various reasons. I think one thing is a lot of Europeans thought that if they didn't stream and just focused 100% on the game, took the stress off from streaming because it's stressful, they'd perform better. Which this world have shown that it didn't really matter much because the NA streams learned they still performed well. So I think next year you'll see a lot of Europeans stream more. However, I also think another reason is that some teams have apparently started streaming on a Super, which CLG also did in the past, and I think that didn't really make much sense for anybody to do, except the organization probably got money for it. And in CLG's case, they wanted all the players to get money as well, I believe, so that's it. But I think some of the European teams had to stream in a Super, and you just don't know. Like, I don't even know that any Super streams are on. I never check a Super. I doubt most of you guys do. And overall, Twitch is just a superior platform because everybody uses it and everybody goes here. So I think that's a big reason as well.
Okay, well, we'll move away from that. I mean, my final kind of words on the Dignitas situation is I think they're going to struggle. Odie won't like me for saying it. I hope I'm wrong. Doesn't happen often. But let's see where it goes. I think Dignitas really need to come up with some big signings, and I don't know if they've actually got anything definite in place, because the way Odie's made it sound is that 1 minute he said he was maybe going to announce a Korean player, possibly a Chinese player, and then he said something about paperwork. So I don't know. Maybe it's all getting a bit desperate. And again, Odie, when you do watch this, I'm sorry. That's just my opinion, just the impression I've got. Anyway. We'll move on to another story while we're talking about foreign imports, and this is going to be Horo, and Ryu coming to Millenium. Shock move, I think. We all knew Horo was going to end up in Europe. He had an offer from the old Super Hot Crew team, which for some reason the team itself didn't want him to join. And it looks like they're instead going to go with Armin, I think, in the jungle over Horo. That's an incredible decision to make, Ram. I mean, given Horo's pedigree.
Pedigree, to some extent, yeah. Horo, I think, was probably one of the better players on that team, SKT1S. Personally, I'm used to dealing with Korean imports. Had to deal with Quantic, and you know how that went out. Like the thing about Millenium, is that it's a tricky situation with what they did. They, without a doubt, got two very, very good players. Horo's a great jungler and Ryu's a great mid laner. And if there's anyone who is a huge Ryu fanboy, it's me. Like, I thought that guy was really fucking good on KT Bullets, even after the whole Faker destroys Ryu Zed versus Zed. The problem is that they replaced their mid and jungle, which were arguably the two best positions that Millennium had. Kerp and Kotnex were probably the two best players on that team towards the end. And they replaced them with absolutely better players. But replacing your strong players with two stronger players doesn't fix your weak players, which is Jerry, who is just not that good. No offense. Creatine, who is very motivation based. Like towards the end, I could feel that he wasn't performing up to par. Like the old Creatine that we know, like the guy that absolutely destroys people. Like, he was a fantastic AD carry in his debut LCS split. And Kevin, who like for some reason a lot of people circle jerk over how he's a fantastic top laner. I think Kevin is just average, mediocre. Like average, I think is the better way to explain it. Like, he's not very special. And the two added Koreans, they're strong players and they'll be good in their respective roles. But Millennium need way more than two Koreans to fix their issues.
Mike, what are your thoughts about it? I mean, you saw there as well that Kevin being highlighted as a mediocre top laner by Ram. You're a top laner yourself, and people have questioned your performance. Do you have any sympathy with Kevin, or do you actually agree with that assessment?
So, on Kevin, I think the problem with him is not his skills. His mechanical skills are very good. He's actually very strong mechanically. The only problem I see with Kevin is that he often leaves fights too early because he doesn't want to die. And sometimes you have to die for the team, and sometimes you can go a little further and then still get out. But I think Kevin often backs out of fights too early, and I think that's his main problem right now. I don't know exactly where I'd rank him, but he got some issues that he needs to fix. I think now that coaches are getting added to the league, and if Millennium gets a really good coach, that's an area the coach can help Kevin improve in very easily. So I think that's something really important for the coach to focus on, because as a player, you get into habits, and it's really important for other people to mention those habits to you and people that you respect and can talk to about it, because it's hard to get out of it yourself.
What about Horo as well coming to the jungle? It looked like he was desperate to get a European move. I think if he ended up at Super Hot Crew, actually, or whatever team that's going to become, we presume MYM. But I think that would have been a real bad deal for him. I definitely think he's got a much better option being in Millennium. I actually think that potentially could be arguably a stronger team, with the exception of Jeri, which I agree with Ram about. I think it's actually quite a solid team.
I think the problem... Huh?
Did you guys hear the background noise, or is it too bad? Is it okay?
I can't hear
No,
it.
it's
fine,
we can't hear it.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
anyways,
The sound of
Millennium-
tables shattering.
from Millennium, the way I know the players and so on, I think the main problem is sometimes not taking it serious enough. They need to practice more. They need to just take the game serious enough. I'm not going to go into detail as to why I think so, but they do certain things that they shouldn't do before events. We can just put it like that. And then also, they have some motivational issues in the team. I know that. Some of the players have motivational issues and didn't know if they want to continue playing. And they need to fix that as well. However, as I said earlier, a lot of Millennium's problems is something that a coach can fix if the players will listen to the coach. And since Riot is going big on coaching now, it's really important for Millennium to acquire a good coach. And I could say that for most teams. A lot of teams would get a lot out of a really good coach, but the problem with League of Legends right now is there are no good coaches at all. Like, from what I've seen, I haven't met a single coach that say this guy is perfect. I've seen coaches that are decent. I know Charlie from C9 and Okudoku, they're pretty good, but the league is only a year older, so they only have experience for a year or so. I think it's even less for Okudoku. They haven't coached for that long, so obviously they're not amazing yet. And the problem is, if you find a coach that you need to slowly teach how to be a coach and he needs to get into it and everything, it takes a long time. And these teams want to be top teams now, so they don't have that time. So it's really important you get the right guy instead of if you get the wrong guy and you spend half a year in him and you find out it doesn't work. And then you're pretty much fucked unless a miracle happens and you just suddenly find a perfect guy that just fits in and everything goes right. So I'm really happy Riot is putting so much effort into highlighting coaching, and it's really important that they do so. The only problem with them doing so is the teams that already realized it will have a lot more competition for the good coaches now, which could be quite sad for some of the teams.
Yeah, agreed. Josh, do you have anything to add to those points? I know we're in European territory.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree on the coaching points. That I agree with Wickd that there's a lot of the biggest room for improvement, I think, is in that department. And kind of defining what a coach really is. You know, is this just, you know, in-game, out-of-game, whatever? It kind of depends on the team, I guess. But, you know, I also haven't seen a coach that I'm like, wow, like that guy's, he's like what makes his team, or like can help them, really helps them a lot. Like, obviously, there's a couple of good examples. I think the best example is actually Loco Doco. I think I might regard him a little higher than Charlie. I think Charlie fits more of like an analyst type role. But Loco definitely has been really good so far for TSM, and I think helped them really improve. But still, I think it's yet to be defined and like really been set as to like what a coach should be, and there hasn't been like a shining example yet.
I'm thinking about tossing my hat in the ring. I might offer my services to a top team. I want to get back into coaching. I've coached rugby teams. I've coached football teams. I think I could do a League of Legends team. What do you think, guys? Do you think could you guys get me hooked up for a job?
Could you coach a League of Legends team? No.
I think.
Fuck you.
So I think some teams could get a coach.
First blood.
Don't know especially much about the game, but could coach them in other things that are mentally and a lot of other things that you need coaching in. And there's a lot of things that a coach can do outside the game. So I definitely think it's possible for someone without a lot of game knowledge to do it, because the players play the game all the time. They know how the game works, and it's not hard to pick up on, oh, why was this stupid? And it's not hard to make the players talk about it in a proper way. So I think it really depends on the players and what each individual team needs, because one coach might be amazing for one team, and he might be completely useless for another team because he can't do the same with that team.
What are your coaching setups in Team Fusion, Josh?
Oh, I was actually just gonna talk on that. Right now, we have Ray, and we have Wei, and then we have Magic. And Ray is the main head coach. You might know him as Noblesse. He was kind of like a live-in sub for the Samsung team, and also like kind of coached them. I don't know his entire deal, but back in season 3, he was working with them. So far, he's been operating mostly on like the life coach style. He's been like cooking for us if we need it, running out and getting something quick if we need it, stuff like that. And just kind of generally like getting us up, having us eat healthy, having us do stuff, like getting us to talk as a team, stuff like that. And that's been really helpful. And then Magic's served more of like an analyst role, honestly, more of like what you'd probably expect of like a League of Legends coach, like getting us to do picks and bans, look at replays after the game about what went wrong. And then Wei kind of, that was also what Wei's doing. Wei's kind of off-site right now. He's actually getting into med school and like doing applications and crap. So he's in like Chicago right now. He just left, but he's also operates with Magic on that. But Noblesse has pretty much been taking off on like the mom role for us and getting us like pretty much being the mom. Like, and I don't mean that in like to like kind of what's the word I'm looking for, to like downplay what he does for us because he helps so much. But yeah.
So Ram, you've obviously had a bit of a bit of a tough time on this show. So this is where you get to sell yourself. You're working obviously as a coach over at Gamers 2. So, I mean, you know, are you good at it? And what do you do? What do you bring to the table as a coach?
So you kind of saw that my players were a bit out of control right there. Everyone's just a bit excited because
And
we
you don't need to
fly-
be a disciplinarian to be a good
no, no, no.
coach. Like
We fly
you
to
just-
we fly to Paris tomorrow for a gaming event, Paris Games Week. There's an offline event there. What I do as a coach is that, like, in a way, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades in a lot of different ways. That I think that my biggest strength as a player has always been picks and bans. That's just the one thing that if I ever have to fall back to as a skill, it's picks and bans and communication. And what I try to do here in Gamers 2 is kind of be the sixth brain, you know? Like, I'm really inexperienced when it comes to coaching and finding my authority and using it properly, and there's a lot of things that I need to learn. But what I do bring to the table is experience in high-pressure situations like relegation matches, which I'm vastly successful on. And
God.
so successful on. I mean, I've qualified with teams that would have never made LCS. I mean, there's that. But
Yeah.
I just think that I'm still a coach in progress in a way. Like, they are starting, like, some of the players in the beginning didn't respect my opinion or didn't listen to me as hard, and Wicked's smiling because we actually had him assist us for a little bit. And watching Wicked coach, I learned a lot about how to communicate with players. Because in some ways I was too soft, not strong enough. In other ways I was too strong and they wouldn't listen to me. So I found my balance there, and now I'm a lot better than I was last week, and I think that I'm getting better every day, and I'm learning how to do it more. But what I think that I bring to the team is a little bit of everything, like an analytical output of the game, high game knowledge, because I spend a lot of time with replays of all regions. I have a support staff of 2 other analysts who I won't name right now because they can't say about them, who also give me a lot of different opinions and knowledge that I do use. A motivator. I keep the energy up. I make sure that they're eating, that they're going to the gym if they want to, because I don't go to the gym because fuck that. Wake up on time, make sure that they're motivated for scrims. If I see that there's an issue, that someone is demotivated, I talk to them. I try to help bring them up. I think that I'm really good at dealing with people one-on-one. That's like me selling myself right now. And that's like one of the biggest strengths is that if someone is having a hard time or a bad day or the team's having a bad day, I know how to bring the mood back.
Mike, Ram talked about how you're, quite a good coach, and that he'd learned some stuff from you. I'm sure a lot of people have probably suggested maybe you should become a coach and stop playing. Because we're going to move on to that topic in a moment. But is that something you can see yourself doing in League of Legends? And again, what is it that you bring to the table, possibly as a coach?
So, if I want to become a coach or not, I can answer that question very easily. I do whatever in life I find fun, and right now I enjoy playing, so I'm not even considering any options because I love playing the game. I still love the game, I want to play all the time, and I don't see a reason to consider other options. I helped coach Gamers 2 for a little bit because I love Boslot and I love the crew. I've had a lot of good times with those two. I've played with both of them a lot, and they're really good friends of mine, so I want to help them out in every way I can. I was visiting my girlfriend, and I thought, well, now that Boss just ended, and I don't really have anything to do except like within the gaming community, obviously. So the 2 things I could do was either play or try and help Gamers 2 in coaching. So I asked them if they needed some help, if I could watch some of the games, and maybe help them out here and there. And I think as a coach, what I could bring to the table is that I'm very understandable of how players react to everything you say, and I understand the way players need things to be said for them to actually learn it and the things they need to improve on. Also, because we were just in Korea, we saw how big of an impact vision control had and how big of a focus that was for them. So I could kind of give that information further to Gamers 2 and where to place the wards, when to buy them, and just in general bad habits that they have, because a lot of players will have bad habits. They don't buy enough wards, they base without buying wards, or they often just go ham in team fights without thinking, or some people get caught a lot by trying to put down wards that they know they can't put down, but they still do it because the team doesn't listen to them and they want the team to back them up. And then you can talk to the players about it and be like, yo, then you want to place the award, you need to make sure that your team is following you. You need to make sure that you communicate it. And if they say no, you need to have patience and wait for them to be ready to do it. Because even if you give an order in the team and tell somebody to do something, it's not always possible for him to straight away just do it, like drop everything he got in his hands and just come, oh, yeah, I'll come help you out. Because if you do that, that's also bad. So it's really important that everybody communicates what they want to do and people wait for each other.
Okay, so I think that's a good opportunity to segue into the general topic we were going to bring up, and then we'll do a quick rumor roundup and we'll kill the show. So I have no idea how long this will last, but I know it was something that Mike wanted to talk about, and I know it's something that both Josh and Ram can identify with. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about is just being a player and what it's like being in the spotlight when you're coming under criticism for your performance. Now, one of the things that's really annoyed me since we started this show is this kind of, like, we're some sort of rivalry that the community have assumed with Summoning Insight, that we're the friendly, fluffy alternative to Summoning Insight, who are, you know, brutal and cutthroat. And I don't really see it that way. I think, you know, we're both shows that try and bring something to the table. We're a little bit different from each other, and that's fine.
Banter.
Yeah, exactly. And we have plenty of banter on here, and we've criticized players on here. So one of the stories I want to tell about one of my interactions with Mike was, I don't know if people remember this, but when Alliance went, was it 0-8, Mike? When the team kind of first got up and running?
I believe it was 7-8, yeah. Or 0-7 something. It's really bad at least.
Yeah, it was a terrible start. I remember roundabout when you guys were 0-3, 0-4, and I wrote an editorial and I said, you know, this team that was put together was, you know, not the team that Froggen wanted. Yourself, Mike, wasn't really included. They wanted other players, and this is why it hasn't gelled. You know, nobody really feels satisfied with the final result. It's become a not so super team, and I actually heavily criticized Mike. It was just after that Malphite, Triforce, and Atma's Impaler game.
Good build.
Which you know, you came under a lot of criticism for, and I said maybe they should get rid of Wickd, is what I said. Now, Wickd, far from getting pissed off and unleashing his many fans on social media or anything like that, he added me on Skype and we had a very adult conversation about it, where he said, you know, yeah, that game wasn't great. I was trying to do something and it didn't quite work out. But he didn't get pissed off at me. He said, you know, I think some of what you said was okay, and I disagree with some of it, but, you know, it's your opinion, no problem. You know, we've met in person since, and we've had beers, and that's like, you know, that is for me how an adult relationship, you know, in the press and the players should be. Sometimes I think it strays over the line, and it can get really mean-spirited. Players lash out at journalists, journalists lash back at players, and I think it creates this really, I know, this negative atmosphere where nobody really enjoys being part of it. Nobody really benefits from it being that way. So I'll start with you, Mike. Recently, you got called, you know, all sorts of shit about, you know, your champ pool not being good enough. You can only play Aurelia and stuff like this. So just talk us through what it was like to kind of get that criticism. And while we're doing that, we'll bring up some stats that might kind of change people's opinion about your limited champ pool. But we'll start with just your general view of the situation.
So for me, in the beginning, like before the Atmos, Triforce, Malphite, whatever, everybody talked good about me pretty much. There's a lot of good feedback. It was rarely negative and so on. But right after that, ever since, it's always been a lot of bad stuff. But I talked to my team about it and stuff like that, and they didn't really agree with all the points the community said. So I started thinking instead that, you know what, there's a lot of nice guys on the community that likes me, likes the way I play and stuff like that. I always rate those comments higher than the negative ones, because honestly, the negative ones are not as important, because the only thing it does is make you feel bad. It doesn't help you, and it's honestly a waste of time to think too much about it, because it doesn't help you in any way, and it doesn't help you achieve what you want. And as long as my team believes in me and trusts in me and don't have issues, I honestly have no reason to care too much about it and get sad or hurt over it, because the second my team would start doubting me, that's when I would get really sad and obviously start feeling that I need to do more, I don't do enough, or I'm bad or whatever, and I really need to shape up.
So what do these stats mean? Talk us through them, because you gave us the screenshots, and I guess what we're looking at is a breakdown of your champion pool and champions you've used. So what time span is this, Mike?
Wait. Can you move the two ones away from each other? Because I see that they're right on top of each other. So they're like two different ones.
Okay, come on, Sam. You get that fixed. So there we go.
I'm looking at the stream, so once it's changed, I can say which one is which.
Yeah. No, come on, Sam. You can do it. Use the force. There you go. Oh, there we are.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
So I thought, why not take the stats of a player that's been praised a lot in Europe recently, Freddy, and then myself for the summer split of EULCS, because that's the most recent split. We both played 36 to 37 games. You played 37, I played 36, I believe it is. And I thought, well, since I have a bad champion pool and whatever, let's just look at statistically, because maybe the community is right, maybe they're not. And I checked it up. So to the left is Freddy's champion pool, and to the right is mine. Pretty much what we played, when we won, which champs we won over. And my two main champions were Shyvana and Aurelia. As you can see, I played the most games in Shyvana and then Aurelia right after. And you can see the win rate is 75% and 71%, which is quite good. And we won a lot in the team. So that means that my two best champions have performed well. However, if you look over my other champions, on total, it was over 21 games, and I maintained a 76% win ratio, which was even higher than both my mains. So obviously I managed to do something right in those games, or else I was super lucky, and my team managed to carry me through all of those games. On the other hand, if you look at Freddy's win ratios, on his two main champions, he had a positive win ratio, which was really good, 66 and 75%. But on all the other champions, which is over 18 games, he only managed to win 44% of the champs of the time.
So, I mean, what do we glean from this then? I mean, are you ultimately saying that, because again, this is interesting actually. So I'd probably be open to some criticism aimed at me, because, and I'll tell you why. So when we were covering Worlds at the Daily Dot, I wrote a series of like kind of recaps. And it was like, 5 things we've learned from today at the World Finals. And I remember saying, maybe on more than one occasion, I guess I said really overly positive things about Freddy. And I said, he's proven that he's a top, top laner that's right up there with the world elite. Now, I probably wouldn't have felt inclined to say the same about you. Yet what we're looking at here is we know that you've got the capability to actually be very good and very good on a multitude of champions. So am I getting sucked into a circle jerk vortex? Is it clouding my mind? Seriously, I'm asking, like, am I being a biased prick?
I don't think you're being a biased prick. I think that any circle jerk affects everyone. It's the same. If I hear that any player is amazing all the time, I might have too much insight into every single player, and I might pick up on that because, everybody says he's really good. So even if he performs equal to another person, everybody would still believe he's really good because you believe what you hear a lot. I think Freddy is the top laner in Europe that have improved the most in this split. He went from a not so good team, and he came into a really good team, SK Gaming, and he performed extremely well over everybody's expectations. So I think Freddy is really good. However, I don't really think it's fair towards me because I had same percentages, win rates on my non-main as my main champions, roughly. And I managed to perform on 12 champions where Freddy played 10 champions, so it's not that my pool is that small.
So just before we bring the other two people in, and Sam, we can probably remove those numbers now. Thanks for all your hard work there. It was very skillfully done. But so why do you think you get singled out, Mike? Because it's an interesting question to me. Why is it that somebody that, I mean, like myself even, I pride myself on being very singularly minded, not influenced. I like to have my own opinions, and I believe in my absolute right to express them. Why is it even somebody like me seemingly could get sucked in and start singling you out as being bad and praising a player of equal or, maybe arguably slightly better or slightly worse equivalent. Why am I praising him and criticizing you? Why do you think you're a target?
So I think there's a lot of different things for that. One thing is, how are you already liked in the community? It matters a lot. If people believe you're already good or not. As I said, after the motherfuck thing, I got a lot of negative criticism, and before I didn't really get a lot. And then also, it depends a lot on your teammates. For example, I am, in my opinion, with very good teammates, and my teammates is of superior skill to Freddy's teammates, in my opinion. I think that SK have superior teamwork, but straight up skill individually, I don't think they match my teammates. So in comparison to the teammates we have, I think Freddy looks better, and I also think that affects it a lot.
Okay.
Let me explain why. It's because, like, I'm gonna make another analogy. Let's just like, with all due respect, right? Let's say that both SK and Alliance are a bucket of shit. Just ignore the really.
That's not a very nice analogy.
Just they didn't get out of group stage, bucket of shit, right?
Wow, dude, made it to Worlds.
Freddy performed well across his team, even when his team failed. It seemed like he was the shining hope of his team. So he's that little glisten on the bucket full of shit.
Right.
Whereas it seemed that when Alliance didn't perform well, it seemed that also Wickd didn't exactly perform well. So instead of having the glistening bucket, that there's no real glisten in that on that bucket. So while it seemed that Freddy really did step up, when in reality Freddy just performed the best of the worst. Right?
First blood.
Because when Alliance,
why do they have to be buckets of shit for this?
Yeah,
analogy,
I literally, you read my mind there, Josh. Like, why did a bucket of shit have to come at the party?
That's all I could think about right now. But like, let's just like in straight terms. When SK were winning, Freddy looked good. When Alliance were winning, Wickd looked good. When SK were losing, Freddy didn't look bad at all. In one of their games, Freddy looked amazing when they were losing, and when Alliance were losing, Wickd didn't look so hot. That's, I think, where the comparison is being drawn. Is that Freddy looked better on a losing team than Wickd?
So yeah, go on.
I don't know if that's true or not. That's possible. Like, I don't watch all my games. I don't watch all the losers. I actually tend to not watch our losses too much, except when I need to. My main point here was mainly that on all my champions, regardless if it was a main champion or not, I won roughly an equal amount of games. I actually won more games on non-main champions, where Freddy, over the stats, looked to shine really highly on his main champs. He won a lot of games. If you compare to how much SK won, he actually won incredibly much, and he played on his main champs. He carried really hard. But then he didn't play on his main champs. He didn't manage to carry as hard.
Josh, I'll bring you into this. Now, we had a little joke before the start of the show where I'm saying you would be really able to bring something to this segment because, you were called the worst jungler in NA. Probably by at least one guy on Reddit. So how did that affect you? And like, I mean, why are you even still here? I mean, like, I don't know. And hear me out, because I'd want to retreat away from that sort of shit. Like, if everybody was criticizing my ability in a particular field, quite venomously, there's probably a point where I'd start thinking, holy shit, maybe they're right. Maybe I should really revise what I want to fucking do. Maybe I am no good.
Yeah, and just to kind of build on that point, is after we got relegated, I didn't exactly have any challengers team offers. In fact, it felt like I was just avoided like the freaking plague. Like, that kind of like Nintendo's really bad mindset even carried on into like the lower tier of challenger. Like, nobody even there thought I was better than some of the players they had. So I had to like go out and build my own team. Now that's a story for a different day. So getting called like the worst jungler in NA, yeah, there were multiple times where I considered just, calling it quits. Screw you guys don't believe in me, this isn't fun for me anymore, whatever. But unfortunately, I still really, really, really enjoyed the competitive aspect, and that was really fun. So, I mean, that drive kind of kept me motivated. I didn't always have that drive. I think the biggest part that hurt me is I lost that drive during the the spring split of season 4, which we played in. That was kind of the demise of Coast, right? We were always like at like a lower 4 team or whatever, but kind of just kept resurfacing and resurfacing and resurfacing. And I didn't get a whole lot of criticism. At that point, it's like, yeah, these guys are like, they're all pretty mediocre. Zion Spartan's really good. Nintendo, he could be good, whatever. You know, give him a year or two. They're young, whatever. Well, by season 4, that had kind of worn out. People were saying, all right, this is getting ridiculous. I've watched these guys almost be good for a year now. What the hell's going wrong? And then, of course, Shifter and Zion Spartan, you know, on paper are playing fantastically. You know, we're something like 4-8 or something, and Shifter has like an 18 KDA or something ridiculous like that. And I'm just sitting here feeding up a storm. So people look at that and they're like, holy shit, this jungler is awful. But I think the realization that people don't make is like there's always the bad communication thing I always go to. Me and Shifter did not really communicate that well, and for the most part we were responsible for making most of the calls around the map. Like there was some piston here and there, but Daydreaming pretty much just fed information. With Fusion, didn't have a whole lot of game knowledge at that point. And Zion was definitely helping a lot too. But for the early game, it was really up to me. And it's really frustrating when you're in charge of the early game calls.
I think Scar has joined the stream.
Yeah, Jesus. But it's really frustrating when you're in charge of the early game and the kid is going ham on the keyboard.
I know.
I cannot talk over that.
Someone must have said something really bad.
But yeah, being in charge of like all the early game stuff, it's designated like, all right, Josh, get us out of the early game. So that was like my job. But the problem is, like in scrims, like mistakes would keep happening. Like obviously to improve, you're gonna fuck up a few times, and people got really disheartened over that. And people are getting pissed, like, why aren't we having success? Oh my god, we're so good. We're all challenger solo queue. Why is this not working? But like the point is, there were never steps taken to become a great team. Obviously, we had Alex Penn, but it was told to him he was only there for like picks and bans and analysis. For some reason, it was stated to him that we didn't want his help in terms of like a gameplay strategy. His was all like post-game analysis and like doing picks and bans, mostly picks and bans, honestly. So we're just like 5 guys stuck with one guy supposed to be teaching us how to do everything, but he doesn't really know at all what he's doing, so it's just like a giant mess. Like I kind of had an idea about what to do, but like I did have a good amount of game sense, but sometimes I don't do the best job of, you know, relaying that to my teammates. And combined with that, I really didn't like some of the effort I was getting in response in terms of communication. I tend to talk a lot, like say where the enemy jungler is always at. So I expect a lot in terms of communication. So pretty much any time like we would get jungle invaded or anything, I'd be like, guys, you know, Elise is coming to my red. Can you help me out? And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, sure. And then it's like, she kills me at red. It's like, oh, what happened? It's like, I just, you know, it's just the like, it's said, it's like in one ear out the other, you know?
Yeah.
That's how a lot of the communication felt. And, you know, I wasn't at the top of my game at that point. Like, I was playing pretty poorly myself. So it's not like, I don't blame my teammates. We're all at fault. But I think that's a lot of what was going on the team.
Well, it becomes a spiral. I think, you know, when you're in a team, and this applies to all sports, not just League of Legends. You know, when you're in a team and you're not performing well, you look to your teammates to, you know, step it up, maintain a certain level, and you can take inspiration from them. You know, one of the things that I've always said to a lot of competitors down the years is it's never about your A game. A lot of times it's not even about your B game. You know, you're never going to go into a tournament where you're 100% in any field. There's always going to be something that's preventing you being your optimum. And what you need to do is, if for whatever reason you can't perform to the maximum capability, you need to look at your, you know, teammates and think, what can I do to stay relevant? What can I do to stay useful? And the only way you're going to get the motivation to kind of, you know, do the hard yards and the unglamorous work is if you look around and you see people, you know, being able to perform and maintain a certain level. If they're going to shit as well, all of a sudden every little mistake just fucking snowballs and just compounds, and before you know it, nobody's talking to each other. You just want to get the game over with. And again, you know, and I'm not just talking about League here. You know, I've had rugby games like that. In fact, I played in a in a rugby match where I think it certainly did for a time, but I think it entered some sort of record book for the biggest stomp. We lost something like 110-0, and it got called off 10 minutes early. It was fucking horrible. We got drew in a cup against a professional side that had members of the South African World Cup squad in it, and then me. It was like it couldn't be. You've got superhumans and then drunks. It was horrible. But a couple of big tackles and maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. Like if someone had just done something, it wouldn't have been so bad. So Ram, I want to ask about your own experiences.
I fell asleep.
Sorry, dude.
I'm awake. I'm just joking.
Good. So I mean, you've been criticized as a player, and I know you're quite an open person, quite an honest person. How's that affected you in the past? I mean, is it hard to sort of cope with that sort of level of attention?
When I died to red buff, even before that,
oh baby,
when I was first brought on to TBD, a lot of the people criticized me because they thought that I wasn't better than Heaven Time. Even though that was probably the stupidest opinion anyone could have. Go for it. I wasn't better than Heaven Time. That realization, like none of the achievements that I had on TBD mattered, where we were probably the best challenger team. We made first place in the playoffs. We completely stomped Quantic and every other challenger team -1. And we were the last pick team. Like none of that seemed to mean anything, and it seemed that people kind of held that same opinion. And then the red buff thing happened, and it was just like, well, fuck. Like I should have just quit then and there, honestly, instead of dealing with like half the shit that
Brokenshard.
Yeah.
I'm just happy you didn't play World of Warcraft. That's all I'm gonna say.
I am playing WoW right now, but that's something else. I should have probably just quit, considering half the shit that I got. But
let's talk about that specifically, because that doesn't go away. That doesn't go away. That one mistake doesn't go away. It lives on the internet forever. It's there's probably a YouTube video of it somewhere. You'll always be the guy who died to red buff. It wouldn't matter if you then got a fucking pentakill or you'd gone on to win. It's like when people talk about Saint, that how he fucked up Flash right at the start when he was doing blue buff. People still bring it up, or the many missed smites. People don't. It seems strange that people would focus on. This is a pioneering jungler. This was a guy who did a lot for the overall promotion of the game, and jungling is the kind of quarterback position, and yet people call him Smite Vicious.
It was really hard, like honestly, playing the next Challenger Series and sticking with DTG, TBD, Coal Black, whatever you want to call it, because after the break that we had and we picked up Probably, I put a lot of effort into becoming a better player, but it seemed that no matter what I did, I would still always just be the guy who died to red buff. I think that my Challenger split for the very first split was probably my highest level of competition that I've ever had, and almost single-handedly carried games with Prawley throughout the entire Challenger Series. Obviously, we did lose to LMQ then, but I mean, dealing with criticism in a way is like you should never look to the Reddit community or any kind of community for endearment or praise, because it's not going to happen. Like, it'll almost never happen unless you're a circle jerked or overhyped player. If you're legitimately good, it might happen, but not many people are going to see that unless you're the star player of your team. And I was never the star player of Complexity. Prawley and Robert kind of took those positions, and they're good players and they kind of deserve it. But when you're dealing with criticism, the only people that you can trust are your teammates and your coaches, whoever's behind you. Those are the only people that have the right judgment of you. And dealing with criticism can be hard sometimes. Like, I've contemplated quitting a lot of times based on a lot of different hate and messages that I could be getting on different days, and it's just sometimes it's like, I saw this picture not too long ago. I don't know if I can ever find it again, but there's this guy who, it's like he receives a lot of compliments, like 10 compliments in one day about how he's a great person and a great worker, and then there's this one guy with a silent, like a really small bubble that says you're kind of a jerk sometimes, and like all these comments around him, and then he's like smiling, and then throughout the day, the 10 compliments they start going transparent, and the one that sticks is that one little bad thing that someone said about you. And it doesn't matter about the 100 of people say that I think you're a great player and a great guy. That one person who says you're a shit player, that one comment is always going to stick with you in the back of your head. It's always the bad comments that make the most noise. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the way that everyone kind of has to deal with. I think everyone here can agree with that. That when it comes to it, a lot of people can say that they love you, but that one person who says you're a fucking dick is going to stick with you.
Yeah,
I actually disagree. I think it depends how much hate or love you get, obviously, but I think it's really important to notice that the ones that write something mean about you, some of them care and some of them still love you, but a lot of them don't even care about you, and it's not important to take their comments seriously. But the ones that take the time to write something nice to you, they take the time because they understand a lot of people are hating on you. And you know these guys really like you and they took their time to write something to you. Often I get a long Facebook message with something, and those are the things, at least for me, that sticks with me because I know these people really like me and they put a lot of time into it, and they know I'm getting maybe a lot of hate and they want to help out, and I think that's really cool from the people out there.
So just quickly before we go on to the final topics, because we've run over by a little bit, and I know Ram's got to travel, and Mike's probably thinking, why the fuck did I come on this show? I got asked nothing but awful questions, especially by Ram. But what's the worst type of criticism? What's the one bit that sticks out? The one time that sticks out? The moment where you thought, you know what, fuck this, I'm done. Question for all of you.
Like when we just said that I'm done like playing, or just I'm fucking...
Yeah, like as in I retire today. I'm gonna uninstall. Fuck this. It's not worth it anymore. Like so,
2 days. 2 days after Copenhagen Wolves announced that they would be taking Airwax, I received a very long and detailed message from an anonymous person about how I was the most overrated piece of trash ever, and I had let criticism, and not necessarily even criticism, mean comments get to me, but holy shit, that comment was rough, man. Like, I was just like, fuck.
I just want to take this opportunity to apologize. I shouldn't have sent it. I was in a bad mood, you know. No, I'm just kidding. What about you other guys? What about you, Josh? You seem such a nice, lovable guy.
Let me finish. Like, that was
Sorry,
pretty much the catalyst for me not being a player anymore. I was pretty much just tired of dealing with the shit, and I decided that it wasn't fun having to wake up the shit like that, and decided that I think I would... It was pretty much there, and I'm like, I think I should be a coach, and started looking for opportunities in that department.
So, come on, Josh, you seem a lovable guy. I can't believe anybody...
First of all, I just like to say regarding your comic thing, Brokenshard, I wish I could have a 10-to-1 compliment ratio. That would be fucking amazing. I'd be like fucking happy as could be.
Yeah, you were going to say Cloud9 there as a
Cloud9, that would have been like, C9 Nintendudex confirmed her, and then... But, yeah. It was probably... I don't remember when it happened, but it was something along the lines of saying, like, I can't stand watching Nintendudex hold Zion Spartan back anymore. And it just really stung because I had played on a team with Zion for upwards of 2 years, and it really got into my head as like, is that really the case? Because I know Zion's so fucking good. I'm like, oh my god, am I that bad that like I'm holding this guy back from being like a world-class top player, going to Worlds and shit? I should probably just quit this game. Like I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it was just like right after we got relegated or something. It was like, yeah, it was pretty awful. But I mean, I get tons of shit all the time. But that comment in particular, telling me I was holding a really, really good friend of mine, Zion, back, just like, holy crap, it hurt.
What about you, Mike? I'm sure you've probably had...
So, for me, I tend not to care too much about the negative from the community because I know it's only harmful and doesn't help me. So, I haven't really had anything specific that was really negative from the community. The only thing that have kind of hurt me was then... This was back in roughly a year ago, then I almost joined SK Gaming before the split, was then Froggen decided he wanted a completely new team, and he didn't include me in there from the start. I think one of the main reasons he didn't do that was because he wanted a completely fresh start, everything new, and he wanted it to be his and only his, and he wanted to make sure everything is the way he wanted to be. So that kind of hurt me. That's the only time that I had not been considered instantly from any teammate I've ever been with to be in the main roster. I know he practiced with other tops, checked them out. Java couldn't do it because of contract issues. I don't know why exactly, but he couldn't get in regardless, so he wasn't a contender in the end. So it was basically between me and Kevin, and in the end, I performed better than Kevin, either play-wise, attitude-wise, or whatever. I don't know exactly what it was, but I know I performed better because Lars Broken had chosen me, and that still made me happy, obviously. But at that point, I was at the point where I would rather have joined SK, but it wasn't possible anymore because of various reasons, because I couldn't play in the relegation tournament and things like that. But at that point in time, there was a lot of discussions about what exactly was going to happen and so on. I'm happy I ended up in Alliance. I think this is a team with more potential. And me and Frank are still good friends. I don't have any grudges because there's no reason to hold grudges in the scene. It doesn't matter. And I'm happy how it ended, but that's the only thing that really hurt me.
Okay, so before we get to Dr. Phil, the reason I wanted to talk about it is I think no one ever really does. I think there's a real trend in esports where it's like no one likes to talk about feelings or how things make them feel because you immediately get called out as being one of those, people on Twitter who talk about getting, PTSD because someone said that you smell or something. So but I know there's a lot of people that actually do get fucking massively affected by just they're not prepared for having thousands of people just say horrible things about them every day. And I've seen a lot of esports celebrities go over the edge. I remember Total Biscuit even had a very public sort of backlash against. He was just like, no one is cut out for this. No one's equipped to deal with this shit on the internet. It's just persistent. So I think it's an interesting topic. Anyway, roster roundups, and then we can all go.
Just quickly, it's like I in the very beginning of this entire spiel, you kind of made a comment about how a lot of people said that we have this rivalry with Summoning Insight. I don't understand why people kind of brought that up because we do two different things, and in some ways, we're about as harsh on criticism as Summoning Insight is on some players. I think that a lot of the people just think it's fun to hate Thorin. I think that's just really it. It's fun to hate Thorin, and we just do completely different things. Summoning Insight analyzes specific gameplay. We talk about the general picture of teams and players and relationships and mindsets. So this whole rivalry thing, it's not happening. It's not happening just to cut that rumor, and let's just enjoy the both shows and let's shit talk as much as we can because you really fucking suck, Nintendo. I don't think you understand.
Yeah, it is stupid. I think that it's
so toxic.
Like I played so good in the relegation games. I played so good in the relegation games versus you, but it didn't mean shit because it was versus you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, instead of dying to red buff, you kill me at red buff. I mean, what is your fixation over that goddamn buff, Broken?
It's so beautiful.
So
I'm just joking, man. I love you.
No, you should be chat restricted again for that.
So the rumor roundup. Everyone's been asking me to ask you, Mike. Crepo spotted on your Mumble or whatever it was. TeamSpeak. Sorry, I should say. I always forget what the cool kids are using these days. See, it started with TeamSpeak for me back in the day. Roger Wilco, if you go back far enough. But he was spotted anyway. He came out today on Reddit and said, I'm just hanging out with friends. Stop speculating. Is there anything in it, Mike? Is Crepo has he got the potential to be joining Alliance?
Crepo got a beautiful voice, Like, VVS Crepo. You know what, man? Your voice is so beautiful. I love the new casting. Can you please come on TeamSpeak because it makes us happy? So,
Froggen wanted to sing Electric Avenue again, called Crepo.
Oh, you don't even know all the songs they're saying. They're saying so much. I don't even know. But
so,
Crepo.
Is there anything in it? I mean, because it seems like obviously you know him, you go back with him, but is there any possibility there that maybe
if Crepo will be joining Alliance?
Yeah,
that's what we're asking you.
That's what we're asking.
You can ask me if you want. I say no.
Is he
So-
gonna pull? Is he gonna put like a switch on us? It's like, but let's take a second and talk. What is Crepo? Like before we understand
Yeah.
what team Crepo's joining, what is Crepo?
Just some politician level question.
I got one question because we already figured out Cripper have a beautiful voice. He's a handsome man and he's very good at a lot of things. What exactly would he be joining Alliance as?
Interesting. Okay.
Ooh.
I like that.
thought.
I like what you've done, Mike. It's like we've broken down the barriers over the course of this 2.5-hour interrogation, and we finally
Break down the walls.
something. And the other thing as well was, what did you guys make of Mata coming out and talking about, joining TSM as a coach?
He's trying to make some money.
He wants some bank.
He had some talks with his good friend Loco Doco, and you're saying, you're making how much?
It's like Loco's
So-
like, yo, Mata, you gotta come here, man. They got so much money. It's like, really?
Would
yeah,
they-
man, I miss you when it snows or something like that. And then
Oh
Oh,
my god.
oh, dude,
Like-
don't no,
Dude.
dude.
Why is it every time we almost make it through an episode,
I know.
Brokenshard has to offend someone?
Like just right at the end, he just has to do it, doesn't he? It's but no, I mean, like, would it be alongside Loco Doco or would it be in place of?
I got one question to that. If it's for the money, wouldn't China be a lot better? As far as I know, there's a shit ton of money in China right now.
I mean, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he wants to stop playing. Maybe I've done it all. I've won worlds. I'm good. Didn't he? Wasn't he the MVP too?
I mean,
He was the
retiring
MVP, yes.
retiring at that point, Mata would be retiring at the highest level of ever. Like, there's no way. Okay, I think Mata knows that he'll never top this performance. It's like the next world, like no matter what, Mata's not.
How do you top?
the same.
How do you top
Yeah.
winning worlds and being the MVP of worlds, winning super worlds? Like, there's no way.
Well, winning worlds 2 times. Winning worlds 2 times in a row is
Mata's
pretty
like,
good.
we're done. And honestly, transitioning to a coach and retiring, it's an incredibly intelligent move career-wise. Because all everybody can talk about right now is Mata, best support world, won worlds, MVP. I want this guy on my team, not even as a player, as a coach. Like right now, everyone's fucking talking about him. Compare Faker when he won worlds to Faker now, there's a whole lot less hype. But Mata right now is like the hot shit, the big news. Any team in their right mind would want him. And he knows that he can use that to make some of this,
That's very possible, but still, my question remains, why would he ever consider joining TSM over a Chinese team with all the money that China currently have, as far as I'm concerned?
If he wants to stop playing, it would be exclusively as a coach, I believe. So,
But couldn't he do that for any Chinese team? Would that be possible?
I mean, that would be difficult because then it wouldn't be a full Korean team. I'd assume that it's easier to coach a full team that speaks English over a team that speaks 3 different languages. And maybe he just would rather live in the United States more. I, for one, I've got nothing against China. I was there for 3 months. I would not want to live there. I would rather live in the States over China, but that's just me. Could just be a personal thing that he'd rather live in sunny California than China.
maybe he wants
Maybe
to go
he's-
live with Loco. They're
maybe
good
he's
friends. I mean,
Pushed away from the so-called corruption in the Chinese scene that people seem to be talking about a lot. That could also be a factor.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting one. I think it's probably more about the American lifestyle. I think some people certainly are going to prefer that over, moving to China. It's 2 very distinct cultures, 2 very distinct countries. I think some people see the American lifestyle as being, quite glamorous, and especially if you can make some serious bank, which we know if you go to TSM as a coach, you can certainly do.
It's also not a tangible thing that there's a lot more circulation and publicity around being on TSM.
Yeah, of course.
Tangibly, they might pay less salary than Chinese teams, but being in that spotlight, streaming on Twitch in between coaching, being such a high caliber player, he could easily be making way more working for TSM than he could working for a Chinese team.
I'm not sure about that. You also have to remember that, yes, he gets a lot more popularity in our community, in our world, but I, for one, don't read all the Asian forums, and the Asian community is way bigger than the Western community, so if he went to China as well, he'd get a huge following as well there. I think the main difference is, as you guys pointed out, the lifestyle difference for California. I've been in California myself. It's really awesome. I have nothing negative to say about it except one of the scumbag taxi drivers I had. But apart from that one guy, California was awesome.
I like
Can't
it.
complain.
Yeah, it was great, but there was this one taxi driver. You know, the
One
models, the cocaine, the money, all of that was good and everything. But this taxi driver, dude, like he almost tipped it over the edge into an unenjoyable experience.
He
Anyway,
almost killed me
uh,
and my teammates. So
what did he do? Come on, tell a story, Mike. Come on, we'll end. Story time with Wickd.
so
Oh, we still have to talk about CW. You know, getting fined. And
we
Thornton.
can do that.
We're not gonna have time to fit it in. Story time with Wickd, and then we'll kill
So
it.
okay, the main thing is we were supposed to take a bus from A to B, and it was a pretty far distance, 200, 400 kilometers. I don't remember exactly. Anyways, we missed this bus because the bus system in the US is absolutely horrible. It drove off 10 minutes early, which would never happen in Europe. I was like, what the fuck is happening? But so we missed it, and we walked outside. We had to catch a plane. We see this taxi driver, and we're like, oh yeah, let's go over there. Let's take him quick. We just pay whatever. We don't care. We get it reimbursed by EG, and we get into this taxi. Apparently, the guy is half blind, and he didn't really know the way. So we drive off. We get on the highway. He doesn't know the way, so he decides to go off the highway, stop at the light cross, and walk out of the car. Wait till the light turns red, and start asking other cars off the. I don't know what it's called, but then you drive off the highway. Then he finds the way because he gets told. He keeps driving, and he starts asking us to read the signs because he can't really see, and we're all getting nervous because we're like, what the fuck, you can't probably see? Are we gonna die here? Then suddenly, we are like, you need to drive to the left, we need to drive to the left, and he doesn't respond. 10 seconds later, he starts responding, and he just makes a turn, and we almost crash into the barricade, the yellow things, I believe they are, with water or something, and he just slams the brake. We're like, holy shit. And we're thinking about getting out of this cab, but on the other hand, we need to catch our plane. So we want to just continue driving. It's not that far at this point. We hope we survive, and we asked him to slow down a bit because we didn't want to die. And then we finally get to the airport. We're like, just take the money, forget about this, and just let us go.
I mean, it's a good taxi story, Mike. I know there was a Call of Duty 4 team on the PC when they competed at a tournament in Croatia. They just had a gun pulled on them. Like they got the fare, everything looked normal, and then he said, "Oh, I'm going to charge you double for this fare," and they said, "Well, we're not going to pay double. There's your money," and he just pulled a gun out and just pointed it in their faces. That was pretty crazy.
Wow.
So it could be worse. I'm just saying.
Did somebody kick the gun out of his hands like, "Oh baby, a triple," and start like, "Mom, get the camera! Oh my god!"
Right. So and people in the chat
man.
are saying that the European stories are as exciting as the LCS. Anyway, look, we'll kill it there. So I know we didn't get time to talk about the link thing. I suggest if you've got the opportunity to do so, you go to Thorin's YouTube channel, and he's recorded a video editorial called CLG's Missing Link. It's a critique of Link's performances in mid and how he's potentially holding CLG back with his love of Hearthstone and whatnot. We've talked a bit about that on our show. There's a lot of talk about him maybe moving to jungle. And this is why I think this editorial is certainly relevant. I would have loved to have had time to talk about it. Maybe it's something we can carry over to next week. And you should absolutely do that. And I want to say to all the people who ponied up and paid subs at the start of the show, we did make it over the threshold. We can get a new emote. But apparently Twitch say that if it's got the word fuck in it, you can't have it. And I thought we were all adults here. So whoever designed that emote, you need to put a star over the U. So it looks like a, get fact, maybe.
I kind of had to take my shirt off for them. I did say I would.
No, Ram, please. God, no, God. and not even because I don't think your body's beautiful, because I'm not a body fascist, but just don't kill the show right at the end like you've done every other week of every other show. Where it looks like we made, don't be that guy. Let's just get through. Let's just power through. So I think it's been a great show. We had some technical problems at the start. Josh was having a house party, but apart from that, we got there in the end. All of our cameras went off, but we got there in the end. Hopefully, it's answered some of the questions about Alliance and about Wicked's champ pool. Before we sign off, I just obviously want to thank my co-host Josh. You're looking great, by the way. I'm loving this beard that you're cultivating. I gotta say that.
I need to shave, dude. I'm starting to grow beards too fast. I'm getting old.
No, it's keep it, man. Grow it out. It makes me feel a bit less feral if there's a bit more hair on here.
Yeah, you got some wolves over here, you and Brokenshard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the Neckbeard brothers are in the fucking house. Like, it's, you know,
Speak for yourself. I don't have a neck beard.
are you?
Not really. I shave it right
my
above
God.
the neck.
Oh my god.
He said while showing off his hairy neck.
Oh my god.
But anyway, Ram as well. I gotta say, great sport. I love that Facebook video you linked us to. I think this is going to open up a new era of opportunity for you, both in and out of League of Legends. Safe journey with your boys to France tomorrow, and give my best to all of them at Gamers 2. And Mike, of course, our very special guest. Great to get someone high profile on the show to talk candidly about things. Great hints about Crepo. I'm sure that'll spark a lot of gossip. And it was great to sort of get some candid ideas about some of the candid thoughts, rather, about some of the criticism you've come under. So thanks a lot for coming on and gracing us with your time. I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So thanks to Sam, the floating voice in the sky, who he had one job to do with the stats and he fucked it up. We might think about getting a new producer for next week. I don't know. But good job, Sam. He's not going to say anything. No, he's
Fuck
pissed
you.
off. There it is. There it is. Get fucked. There we go. But it's been great. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in. We're going to be back next week, same time. And please stop doing this. Please stop tweeting me and saying what time is it on. It's always been Wednesday. It's always been 10 o'clock British time. And it's always going to be that. I'm always going to endeavor to do one. So just bookmark it. Do whatever you need to do. But, you know, I love you, but stop being annoying.
You guys will know when it's coming up, depending on the amount of selfies I put up.
Exactly. But thanks a lot for watching. We hope it's been entertaining. And we will see you all next week.
Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter, no, 'cause I got you. Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter, no, 'cause I got you, babe. Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter, no.
Humiliation.